Chapter 5:16. He raised his head to look at the moon and then lowered his head to look at the water. The bright moon in the night sky was still bright while the shadow of the moon in the water was shattered along with the ripples. The bright moon above his head did not move at all. Therefore, it should be real. The shadow of the moon in the water was broken. Therefore, it could only be a shadow and it was fake. The reason why the fake shadow of the moon appeared was because of the bright moon in the sky. What is void? Void is the reflection of truth, and it is born because of truth. This is what I have comprehended in the past few days. After understanding this, my understanding of the word void can be considered to have truly reached the void glimpse stage. However, the ripples on the water gradually calmed down. Ning Fan stood on the bridge and lowered his head to look at the shadow of the moon that was condensed in the water below his feet. He looked at his own reflection in the water. He looked at his own reflection and the reflection was also looking at him. Their eyes met. In just an instant, Ning Fan's mind went blank. He suddenly raised his head, as if he had understood something but he could not see through it. Ning Fan turned his head and looked behind him. The moonlight was bright and the light from the fishing boats shone on his body, leaving a pitch-black shadow on the bridge behind him. The reflection in the water was fake, but the shadow behind him was real, shadow. True shadow. He calmed himself down and looked at the night scenery of the water village again. However, there was no longer any emotion in his mind. His eyes were only filled with a faint sense of loss. What is void? He asked the question softly again. However, the meaning of the question he asked himself this time was completely different from the first question. For the first time, he asked himself what was void and what was fake. The answer he gave himself was that all the reflections produced by real things were fake. However, when he saw his own reflection in the water, he was at a loss. When he saw the shadow behind him, he became even more confused and asked the second question. The second question was still asking himself what was void. However, it was not about the void but the truth. When Ning Fan's eyes met with the reflection in the water, thousands of thoughts suddenly rose in his mind. When you stand on the bridge and look at the flowing water, the reflection in the water is also looking at you. You think that he is your shadow but he thinks that you are his shadow. You are thinking whether the reflection is fake or not and the reflection is also thinking whether you are real or not. You threw a warm goose stone and disturbed the lake water. The lake water rippled and shattered the reflection, so you thought the reflection was fake. But from the angle of the reflection, he also cast a pebble and shattered the water under his feet. In the eyes of the reflection, is your figure also reflected on the surface of the lake and scattered with the waves? Is that shadow really fake? And the world I'm in, does it really exist? Who is whose reflection? Whose true void is whose? Who's the shadow? Ning Fan stood on the small bridge and looked at the night sky. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. He was gradually unable to distinguish between himself and his reflection. But it was precisely because of this that his comprehension of the void suddenly increased by a large margin. Everyone was born in this world, so they thought that they were objective and real, while their own shadow was fake. This was preconceived notions. But no one had ever thought that they might be the shadow, and that the world on the other side of the mirror or the lake was the real existence. Ning Fan's second question touched upon the comprehension that was too profound. The truth of the Tao truth contained in it was not something he could comprehend with his current strength. Ning Fan did not know that his second question had already touched upon the question of the heavenly Tao, which was definitely not something he could comprehend with his current strength. He recalled the past when he was a disciple of immortal sovereign Zido. In the past, he naturally thought that the world where immortal sovereign Zido was in was a dream, an illusory realm, a fake world that existed in an illusion. Therefore, he also treated the days he lived with his mother and Ji-he as a dream. However, now that he thought about it, could it be that the illusory realm where Zido was in was real and the 4 heavens and 9 worlds where he was in was a dream? Ning Fan sighed softly. He could think of these questions but he could not see through them. He vaguely understood why the cultivators at the first step of Tao cultivation pursued immortality while the cultivators at the second step still pursued the Tao truth even though they had already obtained the immortal lifespan. The cultivators at the first step of Tao cultivation desired immortality. The cultivators at the second step of Tao cultivation desired to obtain the Tao truth. Perhaps this was the only way they could get rid of the fate of becoming a reflection. Void glimpse stage, seeing the void is the void. Void inquiry stage, seeing the void isn't the void, Ning Fan muttered to himself. He could not give an answer to the second question. However, his comprehension of the void had truly reached the void inquiry stage because he saw the void wasn't the void. It was unlike the time when he accidentally knocked open the door of the void inquiry stage bottleneck in the Star Palace and gained control of a trace of the void meridian. He did not rely on any fortuitous encounters or any pills that could help him comprehend the void force. He only relied on his eyes and heart to comprehend the void meridian. At this moment, Ning Fan raised his head and looked at the pitch-black night sky. His eyes were so deep that they seemed to be able to tear the space apart and see the void space underneath. Each trace of void force had a unique meridian. By sensing each different meridian, one could control the void force freely. By connecting millions of traces of void force along each different void meridian, one could then condense a void ocean. If one had enough magic power, he could break through and become a void pierce stage cultivator the moment he stepped on the void ocean, void pierce stage. At this moment, even though Ning Fan's comprehension of the void had yet to reach the void pierce stage, he could already see the path to the void pierce stage. As long as he comprehends the void along this path, he would eventually break through to the void pierce stage one day. This brother's eyesight is really good. It seems like you have already touched the great Tao of the void pierce stage. I am Lu Haoyue from the tree world. May I know how to address you, brother? Unknowingly, a man in green robes with a loose hairpin and long hair appeared behind Ning Fan. His smile was like the spring breeze and his appearance was extraordinary. He cupped his fists at Ning Fan politely. Ning Fan stopped comprehending and his expression changed slightly. He turned around and cupped his fists at the man in green robes. Inwardly, he was quite surprised. He had never thought that he would meet a cultivator from another world in the outer region of the Sovereign Tomb. Moreover, this cultivator was not someone from the Rain world, but a cultivator from another world. Ning Fan from the Rain world. Ning Fan carefully studied the young man in green robes. This young man had also entered the Sovereign Tomb with a trace of his soul. His soul also seemed to be at the vein opening realm. However, judging from the way he talked, Ning Fan was sure that his true body's cultivation base was at least not lower than the void refinement realm. Moreover, judging from his qi, he was clearly a devil that was formed from a willow tree. Not only could a tree cultivate into a tree demon, but it could also cultivate into a tree devil. This Lu Haoyue was a tree devil. He came from one of the 9 worlds, the tree world. So brother is from the rain world. Nice to meet you. I thought brother Ning is the same as me. Both of you have obtained the Thunder Jade token by chance. That's how you were able to cross the worlds and enter the tomb of the Thunder Sovereign. So Brother Lu's Thunder Jade token was obtained by chance. I wonder why Brother Lu is looking for me. Ning Fan pondered about the other party's intention. When I saw Brother Ning standing on the wooden bridge for a few days, I was actually impressed by you for comprehending the void. Thus, I wanted to befriend you and discuss the Tao with you. To be honest, the reason why I entered the Sovereign Tomb was also to comprehend the void. Lu Haoyue's smile was polite and respectful. He was a true gentleman. What Tao do you want to discuss? What is the void? Lu Haoyue suddenly asked. His eyes were like bright moons, shining with a strange light. When he asked this question, he raised his head and looked at the night moon with a puzzled expression. Ning Fan understood what Lu Haoyue meant. He knew that Lu Haoyue was asking the question that he had asked himself for the first time. What was the void? The void is the shadow of reality. Because of reality, there is void. Because there is light, there is darkness. Because there is reality, there is void. If I am standing on the surface of a river, the reflection in the river is my void. As for me, I should be the real one. This is the answer that I had pondered for a few days. However, today, I have a different opinion about this answer. Oh. Would you like to hear the details? Lu Haoyue was originally very impressed with Ning Fan's opinion. It was his first time hearing someone comparing the void to the shadow of reality. Even among the void refinement realm experts in the tree world, there were not many people who had such an incisive opinion. However, after hearing that Ning Fan had another opinion, Lu Haoyue immediately pricked up his ears and listened attentively, afraid that he might miss out a single word. The void is the shadow of reality. Reality might not necessarily not be the shadow of the void. It's hard to tell who is whose shadow. At least with my current cultivation realm, I still can't see through it. Brother Lu, look at the flowing water under your feet. Look at your reflection in the water. Are you really sure that you are the real one and it is void? It's really hard to tell who is whose shadow. After listening to Ning Fan's words, Lu Haoyue's mind went blank. He stood there in a daze. Looking at the flowing water under his feet and his reflection, the confusion in his eyes grew. Originally, he had the intention to befriend Ning Fan when he saw him comprehending the void. Even though he raised the question, he did not expect that Ning Fan's answer would be so shocking. Not only did Ning Fan compare the void to the shadow of reality, but he also asserted that it was hard to distinguish between reality and void. It was the first time Lu Haoyue had heard of such a statement in his life. He could not help but think along Ning Fan's line of thought. Could it be that he, Lu Haoyue, was just a shadow and the world reflected in the water was the real world? When he thought of that, Lu Haoyue's heart shuddered. He felt that his understanding of the word void in his entire life was just empty talk. He had never thought that he was actually an illusion. Does such a possibility really exist? Fellow Taoists' insight is unique. Haoyue is ashamed of his inferiority. However, I still have a second question. What is void? Lu Haoyue cupped his fists and asked for the second time. His eyes were filled with genuine respect. When he asked the second question, his eyes were not looking at the bright moon but the flowing water. He knew that the second question he was going to ask was exactly the question that he had been thinking about before. Brother Lu's second question isn't about void but the truth. Does Ning Fan have an answer? Lu Haoyue's eyes were filled with anticipation. He hoped to get another shocking answer from Ning Fan. I'm sorry. I also don't know what is true. However, I was once a disciple of a strong expert. He once said that there is no need to distinguish between reality and illusion in the world. What you see might not necessarily be true and what you hear might not necessarily be false. Reality and void are only separated by a single thought. When Lu Haoyue first heard that Ning Fan did not know the answer to the second question, he sighed. However, after he heard the latter half of Ning Fan's words, his spirit soul suddenly trembled as if he had been enlightened. He seemed to have understood something. Reality and void are only separated by a single thought. What a good, reality and void are only separated by a single thought. Even though Brother Ning did not answer my second question, you gave me a good answer. However, I still have a third question. What is void? When Lu Haoyue asked the third question, he was not looking at the bright moon nor the flowing water. Instead, he was looking at the boundless night sky. His eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life. Ning Fan remained silent. He knew that Lu Haoyue's third question was not about reality or void. It was about the Great Tao. Brother Lu, you're too naive. The Great Tao is boundless. Even those true immortals have to spend their entire lives exploring it. How would I know the answer? Instead of thinking about the Great Tao that is as vague as smoke, why not live in the present? When the sun sets, the path that you and I have walked on will be our Tao. The path that we have walked on is the Great Tao. Lu Haoyue's puzzled eyes gradually became clear. When he looked at Ning Fan again, he sighed. Brother Ning's wisdom is outstanding. I admire you for answering 3 questions consecutively. If Brother Ning comes to the tree world in the future, you must visit the Snow Willow Devil Palace. I will certainly welcome you with open arms. This is my spirit sense token. With this token, Brother Ning can enter and exit the Snow Willow Devil Palace at will. No one will stop you. Goodbye. Lu Haoyue cupped his fists respectfully again. Then, with a shake of his body, he sent a wisp of his soul out of the sovereign tomb. Ning Fan looked at Lu Haoyue's departing traveling light and fell into deep thought. He carefully examined the divine knowledge order in his palm. This kind of token was condensed by some powerful cultivators using the power of their spiritual will to prove their identity. This kind of token could be stored in the Sea of Consciousness, which was convenient to store. Another benefit was that it could be taken out of the sovereign tomb. There were only 4 words on the spirit sense token. However, these 4 words made Ning Fan deeply shocked. Snow Willow Devil Emperor. That Lu Haoyue was actually one of the 3 great devil sovereigns of the tree world. The Snow Willow Devil Sovereign was a true void fragmentation realm sovereign. I didn't expect that I would actually establish a friendship with a void fragmentation realm expert of the tree world. Ning Fan shook his head and smiled faintly. He touched the spirit sense token with his finger. The token immediately turned into a ray of light and went into the sea of consciousness of his separated soul. Ning Fan's eyes scanned across the night sky and fell into silence for a while. Then, he walked down the small bridge and walked through the night sky of the water village. On both sides of the river, the drumming and laughter from the black-owned boat could be heard. His nostrils were filled with moist and floating breaths which carried the fragrance of oil and vegetable flowers. The darkness of the night dispersed and the morning sun shone brightly. Ning Fan walked under the thin tiles that were weaved with fine lines. He looked at the footprints of the green bricks under his feet and the duckweed flowers that were floating in the pottery jar at the entrance of the alley. Holding a chang flute, he walked past the clear lake that was covered by reeds, the bright roof tiles of the central houses and the clumps of delicate bamboos. 1 day. 2 days. 3 days. Along the way, Ning Fan encountered some spiritual beasts and demons along the way. However, he just casually killed all of them without stirring up his mood. Time passed day by day. The cultivation base of his separated soul was also rising bit by bit. 6th level of the vein opening realm. 7th level. 10th level. Ning Fan stood on the peak of a mountain and recalled the scene when he broke through to the harmonious spirit realm in the past. In the past, he broke through to the harmonious spirit realm with a gold core realm Dao fruit. The time he spent in 7 Apricot City was gone forever. Roared out on the mountain peak, a few giant bear demons with a cultivation base at the 10th level of the vein opening realm charged at Ning Fan while roaring. Ning Fan did not even turn his head back. He just casually took out the chang flute and casually reaped the lives of a few bear monsters. After eating the beast bear's vein opening thunder fruit, this weak separated soul body broke through to the harmonious spirit realm at this moment. Harmonious spirit, just like that year, Ning Fan's eyes were filled with nostalgia. With a single step, he flew down from the peak of the mountain. After attaining the harmonious spirit realm, this wisp of his soul was able to fly in the sky and burrow underground. He used the snow treading art, which he hadn't used for many years. Just like in the past, he traversed the horizon with the Xian steps. He flew high into the sky and headed straight for the central territory, and he alarmed many ferocious beasts that lived in seclusion along the way. Among these ferocious beasts, there were early, mid, late and even peak harmonious spirit beasts. As long as they were below the gold core realm, none of them could stop Ning Fan's flute from claiming their lives. Chi! 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 The flute fell into Ning Fan's hand and turned into a supreme magical treasure. Ning Fan had killed tens of thousands of harmonious spirit beasts along the way, and his cultivation had been rising. Early harmonious spirit, intermediate harmonious spirit, late harmonious spirit, peak harmonious spirit. As he was about to break through to the gold core realm, Ning Fan recalled the bloodbath he had gone through to attain the gold core realm in the past. He thought of Ancestor Fire Cloud's deep love, the humiliation he had suffered in the Great Gene and the countless battles in the outer endless seas. He recalled the bold words he had said in the past. Don't seek immortality, don't seek to dominate, just seek to correct your reflection. Gold core. His eyes flashed and his aura was released. He had already broken through the gold core realm. It was as if a beam of light had charged into the central region, immediately alarming countless dead souls in the central region. Most of the undead souls in the central region had cultivation levels, and each of them was quite powerful. There were many golden core, nascent soul, and even soul formation cultivators. Every time he went to a region, he would definitely be besieged by the undead spirits of that region. At the same time, he would also slaughter all the undead spirit cultivators of that region. Every time he killed an undead, he would get a thunder fruit. His cultivation base increased step by step, reaching mid-gold core realm, late gold core realm, peak gold core realm. He was once again close to the nascent soul realm. Under the night sky, Ning Fan stepped on a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood and walked out of the Valley of Dead Souls. Looking at the bright moon above his head, he recalled the determination he had when he formed his nascent soul in the past. He recalled the tender feeling he had when he was reluctant to kill Ji He and the heart devil that had troubled him for many years. You are the heart devil that I can't get rid of in my entire life, nascent soul realm. After consuming countless thunder fruits, Ning Fan's cultivation base broke through to the nascent soul realm at this moment. Even though there were nascent soul realm and divine transformation realm undead spirits in the central region, they did not exist on a large scale. Ning Fan could not advance to the divine transformation realm and void refinement realm through massacres like he did during his previous breakthroughs. He directly flew across the central region and stopped killing. Instead, he flew all the way until he was close to the divine region. He no longer concealed his baleful chi. The undead spirits that he encountered along the way all shivered in fear when they sensed Ning Fan's threatening aura force. None of them dared to attack him anymore. Ning Fan stood outside the divine region and sensed the unusual baleful chi inside. Then, he gently halted his footsteps. He did not plan to enter the divine region. If the Thunder Sovereign's undead spirit really existed in the divine region, he would only end up being destroyed if he entered it with a trace of his soul. It had been a few months since he entered the sovereign tomb. The injuries of his true body in the outside world should have almost healed. A trace of his soul entered the sovereign tomb and passed through the central region from the outer region to the periphery of the divine region. His initial goal of exploring the sovereign tomb had basically been achieved. Next, it's time to leave the sovereign tomb. Standing on the peak of the mountain, Ning Fan stared at the dim night sky. His heart was as calm as still water. Whether it was real or fake, he did not care about these things. What he cared about were those people, those matters, and those obsessions, returning to the mundane world like smoke, fading the bright moon with a smile. His eyes calmly stared at the trace of moonlight. His current mood was close to the great Tao. Suddenly, he had an urge to pick up those memories and ignite that trace of moonlight. The moonlight was ethereal and hard to find. It was even more impossible to ignite it. However, Ning Fan had a strange feeling. As long as he wants to, he could ignite the moonlight. The journey of comprehending the void was not fruitless. At least, Ning Fan had gained enough insights, and these insights were enough for him to create another magic technique. He stared at the seemingly illusory moonlight. Suddenly, he stood proudly on the peak of the mountain and performed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers. Perhaps I can create a technique called Void Ignition Technique before I leave. Ning Fan smiled indifferently. If he integrates the insights he gained along the way into this technique, he could ignite the moonlight. Ignite the void. He had yet to realize how terrifying the Dharma spell he had casually created would be. What kind of void fragmentation realm expert would be scared to death by this technique? Outside the giant devil clan, an arrogant grey-robed old man suddenly descended with an imperial order from the Rain Sovereign. I am Yun Daoku. I am here to convey the Rain Sovereign's decree. Where is Zhou Ming? Quickly come out and receive the decree. His voice was not loud, but it contained the aura force of a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm expert, shocking the entire giant devil clan. His eyes were filled with a hint of coldness. He heard that King Qi Yao, whom he had supported, was killed by Ning Fan. King Qi Yao was supposed to be of some use to him. However, he is now dead. It seems like I have to teach Ning Fan a lesson today. Where is Zhou Ming? Yun Daoku shouted coldly. The wind and snow of the northern cold mountain were dispersed by his shout. The mountains and rivers collapsed. Chapter 5:17. Ning Fan stood on the peak of the mountain for a long time like a statue. Every day, he waited for the night to come and looked at the faint moonlight. He hadn't been so quiet for a long time. At this moment, he was almost about to enter the state of the union of heaven and man. He wanted to create his own spell to ignite the moonlight. Moonlight exists in the world, so it is real. The moonlight could not be touched, so it was illusory. It was difficult to distinguish between the real and the illusory. Thus, Ning Fan no longer tried to do so. He just activated his magic power and imitated the changes of the moonlight. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. 7 days had passed. On the peak of the mountain in the central region, the sun rose and the moon set. Ning Fan was like a statue from the beginning to the end. Several hundred kilometers around him, there were many ghost cultivators gathered. Each of them harbored ulterior motives. They wanted to eat Ning Fan to improve their cultivation base and magic power, but none of them dared to do so. Among these undead spirits, there was no lack of nascent soul realm and divine transformation realm experts. As for Ning Fan's separated soul, it was just at the early nascent soul realm. Thus, these undead spirits should not be afraid of him. Ning Fan could only blame himself for frightening too many people with his terrifying baleful qi when he crossed the central region. Moreover, at this moment, Ning Fan was standing proudly on the peak of the mountain, comprehending magic techniques. His actions were extremely profound and unfathomable, causing these undead spirits to not dare to act rashly. This person must be a foreign cultivator. As long as we eat him, we will be able to greatly increase our magic power cultivation. However, this person's baleful aura is so terrifying. We might not be able to kill him. I don't know what kind of magic this person is comprehending, but he actually stood there for 7 days. Could it be that this person is creating a nascent soul level spell? It doesn't seem like it. Every time the moon rose, this person would raise his head to look at the moon. Presumably, the spell he created was related to the moon. The sun is the saint, the moon is the emperor, and the stars are the gods and demons. Spells that are related to the sun, moon, and stars are not simple. This person might even be able to create a transcendent level spell. Most of the undead spirits were holding their breaths and hiding nearby cautiously. They did not dare to attack Ning Fan rashly as they were trying to guess his magic technique. Only a small number of nascent soul realm undead spirits were reckless enough to approach Ning Fan stealthily, attempting to launch a sneak attack on him. However, just as these undead spirits were about 10 li away from Ning Fan, all of them were strangely burned into ashes by the rings of black flames. The way they died was extremely horrifying. This scene shocked countless undead spirit cultivators. However, there were always some who refused to believe it and wanted to launch a sneak attack on Ning Fan. Those undead spirit cultivators who sneakily attacked Ning Fan would be incinerated by the fire rings at a distance of 10 li away from him. As the days went by, the range of the fire ring gradually expanded. All the undead spirits that trespassed within 100 li of Ning Fan would be incinerated into ashes. On the 10th day, no one was allowed to stand within 1,000 li of Ning Fan. Anyone who trespasses within 1,000 li of Ning Fan would only end up dead. On the 14th day, no one was allowed to stand within 10,000 li of Ning Fan. All the undead spirits had to flee to that place. Only some divine transformation realm undead spirits were allowed to stand within 10,000 li of the area and watch his self-created magic technique. On the 15th day, Ning Fan opened his eyes and raised his palm. A clump of black devil flames leaped out from the center of his palm. There were countless veins of void power in the devil flames. He looked at the demonic fire in his palm and shook his head. Not enough. The 16th day, the 17th day, Ning Fan remained standing on the peak of the mountain for a whole month. No more undead dared to approach him without permission, and he no longer summoned his demonic flames to burn them. Day after day, he bathed in the moonlight and waited for the night to come. His feet never moved. Some of the more observant Divine Transformation Realm undead spirits noticed that Ning Fan's figure was actually becoming fainter day by day. After just 1 month, his figure had already become so faint that it was almost transparent. They could see the scenery on the other side through Ning Fan. No one knew that Ning Fan was turning his body into the void. No one knew that Ning Fan was comprehending the fire control technique of the void fire realm. The fire control realm was divided into 3 steps, which were the corporeal fire realm, void fire realm and true fire realm. The fire control technique of ordinary cultivators was at the corporeal fire realm. Only a few void fragmentation realm old monsters could cultivate their fire control technique to the void fire realm. As for the true fire realm, even a true immortal would not be able to cultivate it successfully. However, from Ning Fan's point of view, in order to ignite the illusory moonlight, one would at least need to reach the void fire realm. On the 31st day, Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes and raised his hand to summon the devil flames. The devil flames immediately turned into a ring of fire that looked both real and illusory at the same time and spread in all directions. When the ring of fire was ignited, it could even burn the space, revealing the dark hollow space below the spatial barrier. In order to ignite the illusory moonlight, the first step is to reach the void fire realm in my fire control technique. The first step has already been completed. As for the second step, I need to borrow some power that is at a higher level than void in order to increase the power of my flames, ignite the moonlight, ignite the void and ignite everything. At first, Ning Fan wanted to integrate a trace of the power of samsara into this technique. However, after thinking about it carefully, he shook his head and rejected the idea. His understanding of samsara was too shallow. The magic technique he created with the power of samsara would not be able to cause too much damage to high-level cultivators, and it might not be able to ignite the moonlight. He recalled the scenes of slaughter, the scenes of the sea of blood, and the butterfly from his previous life. He suddenly smiled. I know how to ignite the moonlight now. Outside the giant devil clan, a skinny old man arrived in the night sky with a gloomy expression. He held the imperial decree of the rain world's divine sovereign and stood proudly in the sky. His arrival made everyone in the giant devil clan not dare to be negligent. His name was Yundaoku. He was one of the 4 void fragmentation realm experts of the rain world. He was in charge of the heavenly palace, which was one of the 9 great branch palaces. He had always been cautious and timid. He had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, but he had never done anything dangerous that would anger a void fragmentation realm expert at the same level as him. He was inflexible, harsh and merciless. He especially bore grudges. He secretly supported King Qi Yao, but he did not expect that he would die in Ning Fan's hands. When he thought of King Qi Yao's death, Yundaoku's eyes flashed with anger. He wished he could immediately teach Ning Fan a lesson. Ning Fan was useful to the Rain Sovereign. Of course, he would not dare to kill him. However, if he just teaches Ning Fan a lesson, the Rain Sovereign would not be angry. Where's Zhou Ming? Yundaoku spread his spirit sense. He could see everything within 1 million li. He had already found Ning Fan's location. As soon as he sensed that Ning Fan was recuperating in his room, Yundaoku smiled coldly. I heard that Zhou Ming had consumed a 7th revolution pill during the battle against the giant devil clan. He instantly gained void fragmentation realm strength, which allowed him to crush everything in his path. Initially, I was a little afraid of him. But now, it seems like he has suffered quite a huge backlash from that pill. That's right. How can it be justified if he doesn't suffer from severe backlash after consuming such a heaven-defying pill? His injuries are so severe that I don't even need to teach him a lesson. I only know that if I interrupt his recuperation, he will definitely suffer from an even more severe backlash. Perhaps his Tao foundation will be destroyed and he won't be able to make any progress in his cultivation base for the rest of his life. Yun Daoku smiled grimly. He directly passed through countless passes of the cold northern country. With a single step, he crossed an immeasurable distance and arrived at the provincial city. When he was young, he had suffered from cold poison and fire poison which left a lingering injury. Thus, he was most afraid of cold and heat. As soon as he arrived at the provincial city, he immediately flicked his sleeves and said, "It's just a snowstorm. Disperse it for me." No one knew what kind of ability he used, but the snowstorm that had never stopped in the cold northern country for tens of thousands of years was stopped by Yun Daoku with a flick of his sleeve. Zhu Qing led some cultivators of the giant devil clan to welcome him. When they saw Yun Daoku's ability to disperse the snowstorm, all of them were greatly shocked. "We, the cultivators of the giant devil clan, greet enlightened Master Daoku." Humph. Yun Daoku did not even look at the people who came to welcome him. With a cold smile, he took a step forward impolitely and vanished without a trace. He went straight to Ning Fan's residence in the provincial city. "This man is really rude." One of the young cultivators of the giant devil clan muttered to himself. At the next moment, the young cultivator suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream and fell to the ground dead. His flesh and blood withered out of thin air, leaving only skin and bones behind. He had turned into a terrifying dried corpse. "How dare you talk about me? You must be tired of living. Jijijiji. With your insignificant cultivation base, if any of you dares to talk nonsense again, I will massacre the entire giant devil clan and make all of you regret it." Without a doubt, the one who killed them was Yun Daoku. However, no one could clearly see how he did it. After hearing Yun Daoku's domineering tone, who would still dare to offend him? He doesn't come with good intentions. I wonder if fellow Daoist Zhou can handle this trouble. Zhu Qing sighed. Yun Daoku directly crossed an immeasurable distance and passed through the layers of defenses, arriving outside Ning Fan's courtyard. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Dressed in gray robes, he let out a sinister laugh like a snake and shouted coldly. "Zhou Ming. I asked you to come out. Are you deaf? Why aren't you coming out?" Yun Daoku's tone was unfriendly. Everyone could tell that he was hostile towards Ning Fan. Some devil guards of the giant devil clan wanted to stop him. However, when they saw Yun Daoku's snake-like cold stare, all of them shuddered and fell to the ground, unable to move at all. Ordinary cultivators did not even have the right to stand in front of a void fragmentation realm expert. This was a true void fragmentation realm expert. Once a void fragmentation realm expert gets angry, millions of corpses would be left behind. Who could stop them? Yu Lingkong and the other women were guarding Ning Fan's courtyard. As soon as they saw Yun Daoku descending upon them with bad intentions, all of their expressions changed drastically. They hurriedly showed themselves and stood in front of Yun Daoku. As for Hong Yi, who was hiding somewhere, as soon as she saw Yun Daoku, she also revealed herself with cold and blood-red eyes. Her eyes actually showed a hint of fear towards Yun Daoku. It's actually Yun Daoku. This Yun Daoku's 3 withering and 3 flourishing technique is extremely powerful. With my cultivation base which has just recovered to the first fragmentation realm, it won't be easy for me to defeat him. However, Zhou Ming is of great use to me. If this person dares to hurt Zhou Ming in front of me, I will protect Zhou Ming even if I have to suffer severe injuries. Yun Daoku glanced at the women from the corner of his eyes disapprovingly. Even though these women had decent innate talents, the highest cultivation base among them was only at the void inquiry stage. None of them could stop him. Originally, he wanted to bypass the women and directly barge into the inner courtyard to teach Ning Fan a lesson. However, when his gaze fell upon Hong Yi, he suddenly felt a chill down his spine and stopped in his tracks. The cultivation base that Hong Yi revealed was also just at the void glimpse stage. However, Yun Daoku felt a sense of danger from her. Who is this lady? Yun Daoku stared at Hong Yi and went through all the people in his mind that he must never offend. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not think of any terrifying enemy who was this lady in red robes. He had always been cautious. For the time being, he did not dare to provoke Hong Yi recklessly. However, he had not given up on his plan to teach Ning Fan a lesson. He stood outside Ning Fan's courtyard, coldly staring at the few women and said in a deep voice, "I came with the order of the Rain Sovereign. All of you, quickly ask Zhou Ming to come out and see me. No mistakes are allowed. Big Brother is still recuperating. It's not suitable for him to meet any guests for the time being." Su Qiuling explained with a cold frown. She did not like Yun Daoku's arrogant tone. However, she knew that she must not offend him and make enemies for Ning Fan for no reason. Before she could finish her sentence, Yun Daoku interrupted her impatiently. "I won't ask for the reason. No matter what, I came here under the order. Zhou Ming must come out and see me immediately. I don't have time to wait for him. After I pass the Rain Sovereign's order, I still need to return to the Withering Glory Valley and continue studying my Void Spirit technique. How can I waste my time here? I'm only going to count to 3. If this Zhou Ming still doesn't show himself, I will barge in by force. I don't think any of you juniors can stop me." "What? You can't barge in by force?" Su Qiuling looked anxious. She was afraid that Yun Daoku would disturb Ning Fan's recuperation by barging into the courtyard. Yun Daoku ignored all of the women's anxiousness. He just counted indifferently. 1, 2, 3. Yun Daoku's expression was domineering and cold. He did not show any respect to anyone. After he finished counting to 3 breaths, he took a huge step forward and directly barged into Ning Fan's courtyard. He raised his hand and sent out a gust of strong wind towards the house where Ning Fan was. Judging from his posture, he was going to flatten Ning Fan along with his courtyard. Even though it was just a casual attack from Yun Daoku, it was much stronger than an ordinary Void Pierce stage attack. All the women were shocked. Even if Ning Fan was at his peak condition, it would be difficult for him to block such a terrifying attack, let alone when he was injured. This Yun Daoku is really vicious. He clearly wants to harm Ning Fan while he is injured and aggravate his injuries. Hong Yi's blood-red eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. The moment Yun Daoku stepped into Ning Fan's courtyard, she had already decided to block his attack and teach him an unforgettable lesson. She would not watch Yun Daoku hurt Ning Fan without doing anything. Unexpectedly, before Hong Yi could make her move, an extremely terrifying magic technique aura force suddenly engulfed the entire cold northern country. That aura force spread out from Ning Fan's room and swept towards Yun Daoku, shocking everyone. A strange black ring of fire flashed and the entire courtyard was burnt to ashes. Not even a piece of debris was left behind. The ring of fire was still spreading. The earth was burnt to ashes, the mountains and rivers were burnt to ashes, the wind and snow were burnt to ashes. Everything that stood in the way of the ring of fire was gone. In the wind and snow, Ning Fan stood quietly on the ruins of his courtyard. Under his feet was a gigantic formation diagram made of black flames. The formation diagram was burning with black flames that seemed to be real yet illusory. The terrifying firepower made the entire space sizzle. Ning Fan stood on the Black Sea Grand Formation like an emperor of fire. His figure suddenly became extremely faint as if he was about to vanish from this world. Countless butterflies that were formed from black flames appeared around him. His eyes were still closed. His separated soul was still comprehending magic techniques in the Sovereign Tomb. His physical body merely sensed danger and moved instinctively, displaying the void ignition technique that he had just comprehended. Ning Fan did not know that he was facing a void fragmentation realm expert at all. He just gently raised his finger and pointed at Yun Daoku. His black hair suddenly danced wildly and his devil chi was monstrous. The strength of the devil chi in that finger was absolutely unparalleled among those below the void fragmentation realm. As he pointed his finger, the black sea of flames under his feet suddenly turned into millions of black butterflies. The millions of butterflies merged into one and turned into a 10,000 zhang humongous black fiery butterfly that flew proudly in the night sky. Both of the fiery butterfly's wings were shining with a black halo. That black halo was actually the shadow of the heavenly Tao ring. Butterfly move, void ignition. Ning Fan said indifferently. All of a sudden, the gigantic butterfly flapped its wings. There was no sea of flames, but everything that stood in its way was turned into ashes without exception. Be it the mountains, rivers, the pitch-black night sky, or even the moonlight that filled the sky. Yu Lingkong covered her mouth in shock. She cultivated the power of moonlight, but she had never seen any magic technique that could burn the moonlight. Hong Yi's blood-red eyes were filled with astonishment. Her gaze fell upon the gigantic butterfly. She could not believe that Ning Fan could display such a powerful magic technique. As for Yun Daoku, his old face, which was unmoved by anything in the world, revealed a panicked expression for the first time. When the gigantic black fiery butterfly aimed its wings at Yun Daoku, it suddenly flapped its wings. All of a sudden, Yun Daoku, who was a dignified void fragmentation realm expert, let out a miserable shriek. Hong Yi realized that the situation was not good. She had already brought her women and the other cultivators of the giant devil clan to 10,000 li away. Yun Daoku was the only one who was within the attack range of the gigantic butterfly and could not escape. The night sky was burned and the moonlight was extinguished. There were no flames burning within 10,000 li where Yun Daoku was standing. However, everything was burned into ashes. Yun Daoku, who was a dignified void fragmentation realm cultivator whose physical body was even stronger than a body cultivator at the 4th level of the golden body refining realm, was ignited by the black flames without any warning. The burning made him feel unbearable pain and his injuries gradually worsened. What Yun Daoku did not expect the most was that his primordial spirit, which had already turned illusory, was actually ignited by the black flames. It burned crazily and almost turned into ashes. He used all of his magic power to try and extinguish the strange black flames. However, he realized that the black flames were actually void flames. They could not be extinguished with ordinary methods at all. He was not good at dealing with ice and fire divine abilities in the first place. Now that he was attacked by the gigantic black fiery butterfly, it nearly scared him to death. When the black butterfly flapped its wings for the first time, Yun Daoku coughed out blood and took 3 steps back. When the black butterfly flapped its wings for the second time, Yun Daoku took 10 steps back while coughing out blood. When the black butterfly flapped its wings for the third time, Yun Daoku took 50 steps back and could no longer stand steadily. He actually could not withstand a single move of Ning Fan's magic technique. If Ning Fan did not stop the magic technique and the gigantic butterfly flapped its wings for more than 10 times, he might even die in Ning Fan's hands. How is this possible? How is this possible? A void fragmentation realm expert was actually about to die in Ning Fan's hands. Moreover, Ning Fan was still in a state of deep sleep and he was just instinctively using a magic technique. I'm immortal technique. Even though this technique isn't an immortal technique, it is extremely close to it. It can even ignite my primordial spirit, which has turned illusory. It's too scary. It's really too scary. A mere void inquiry stage cultivator can actually use an immortal technique. Who would dare to provoke such a void inquiry stage expert? All of a sudden, Yun Daoku was filled with fear and regret. Yun Daoku only thought that Ning Fan used an immortal technique to take revenge on him for attacking Ning Fan's courtyard earlier. Seeing that the gigantic black fiery butterfly was about to flap its wings for the 4th time, Yun Daoku forcefully swallowed a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with madness. No. No. No matter what, he, Yun Daoku, must not die here under this terrifying immortal technique. Even if his physical body is destroyed, even if only his primordial spirit can escape, he must preserve his life. Not good. This Yun Daoku is going to detonate his primordial spirit. Hong Yi's eyes were filled with astonishment. She could not imagine how Ning Fan could use such a powerful immortal technique which forced a void fragmentation realm expert to detonate his physical body. Just as Yun Daoku was about to commit suicide, Ning Fan suddenly spurted out a mouthful of blood and woke up. As he withdrew his magic power, the gigantic black fiery butterfly in the sky and the formation diagram of the sea of flames beneath his feet dissipated. The grade of this void ignition technique seems to be a little too high. Unless my cultivation base is a little higher, I won't be able to completely control this technique. If I use this technique rashly, I will either vomit blood due to the backlash or lose control of this technique. Even I will be killed. Senior, who are you? Why are you vomiting blood in my courtyard? By the way, where's my courtyard? Ning Fan's eyes were filled with confusion. Looking at Yun Daoku, who was wearing a terrified expression, he felt extremely puzzled. Could it be that he had done something terrifying when he was unconscious? Otherwise, why would this void fragmentation realm expert be so afraid of him? Why were the mountains, rivers and houses in the surroundings burned to ashes? May I know who you are, senior? What brings you to the giant devil clan? Is there something you need from me? Even though Ning Fan did not recognize Yun Daoku, he could sense his void fragmentation realm chi. Therefore, he was still very polite to him. Unexpectedly, just as Ning Fan took a step closer to Yun Daoku, the latter hurriedly took a few steps back as if he was avoiding a plague. He kept a distance from Ning Fan as if he was afraid that Ning Fan would come closer to him. Stay away from me. Don't come near me. Don't ever come near me. Fellow Taoist, let's talk this out. I'm a subordinate of the Rain Sovereign. You can't kill me. Yun Daoku was still in extreme fear. He was not courageous in the first place. He had been cautious all his life and had lived a leisurely life as a void fragmentation realm old ancestor for so many years. Who would have thought that he would almost die in Ning Fan's hands today? It really scared him to death. Let's not talk about avenging King Chiao. Even if Ning Fan killed his own father, he would not dare to take revenge. Even if he was given 10 times more courage, he would not dare to provoke Ning Fan. Ning Fan was too scary. Too scary. An immortal technique nearly killed him instantly. He was a dignified void fragmentation realm expert, but he almost died in the cold northern country without knowing why. Ning Fan's mind raced. He looked at the ruins of the battle and then looked at Su Yan, Su Qiuling and the other women who kept giving him meaningful looks. Then, he vaguely had a guess. Could it be that when I was unconscious, I accidentally used the void ignition technique and severely injured this void fragmentation realm expert? Pu Ming K was the first to laugh. Her brother Biscuit was really talented. He could still use magic techniques when he was unconscious and even beat Yun Daoku half to death with that magic technique. No one would believe this even if she told them about it. If you're fine, I'm leaving. His name is Yun Daoku. He even tried to hurt you just now. You don't have to be polite to him. Hong Yi said coldly and turned around, disappearing into the wind and snow. As soon as he heard Hong Yi's words, Ning Fan's gaze towards Yun Daoku began to carry a hint of coldness. So it's fellow Taoist Yun. I apologize for my rudeness. As one of the 4 great void fragmentation realm experts of the Rain world, fellow Taoist is a world-renowned expert. I wonder what brings you to a remote place like my giant devil clan. After being stared at by Ning Fan's cold eyes, Yun Daoku felt a chill down his spine. He immediately smiled apologetically. Fellow Taoist can even use an immortal technique. How would I dare to give you any advice? Hee hee. It's just a misunderstanding. All of them are just misunderstandings. The reason why I came to the Giant Devil Clan is because of the Rain Sovereign's order to grant fellow Taoist the title of a noble. I wonder if fellow Taoist wants to obtain the title of King Ming or Marquis White Robe. King Ming. Marquis White Robe. Ning Fan was slightly surprised. I'm going to obtain the title of a noble. Chapter 518. Ning Fan did not give an immediate answer. To him, whether it was Wisdom King or Marquis White Robe, they were just titles. It didn't matter which one he chose. However, when he thought about it carefully, the Rain Sovereign purposely sent a Void Fragmentation Realm expert to bestow him with a title. It seemed like he was making a mountain out of a molehill. There must be some deep meaning between these two titles. King Ming. Marquis White Robe. I see, there was nothing wrong with these two titles. The only difference was the difference between the two titles, King and Marquis. In the mortal world, the king was the ruler and the marquis was the minister. In the cultivation world, even though it was not so particular, the Rain Sovereign had purposely sent someone to bestow Ning Fan with a title and let him choose between the royal nobles. Thus, Ning Fan could not help but think about it further. When he thought of the Rain Sovereign's character, Ning Fan vaguely guessed that the Rain Sovereign was testing him with his title. It was also Ning Fan's fault for being too high-profile while cultivating the devil path. It was inevitable for him to arouse the Rain Sovereign's suspicion. The Rain Sovereign was worried whether Ning Fan would become the next Yun Tianjue or Thunder Sovereign Buzhou. He was worried whether Ning Fan would break free from his control and become the next sovereign of the Rain world, usurping it. Ning Fan was quite confident that if he chooses the title of King Ming, the Rain Sovereign would suspect him of having wild ambitions. Then, the Rain Sovereign would suppress and kill him. The Rain Sovereign's vision is too narrow. It's just a mere position of the Rain world's divine emperor. What's there to fight for? Ning Fan's heart was filled with disdain. His ambition was not in the Rain world but in the four heavens. He did not have the intention to fight for power with the Rain Sovereign at all. If he became enemies with the Rain Emperor one day, it would definitely not be for the sake of a power struggle, but for some other reason. After seeing through the Rain Sovereign's thoughts, even though Ning Fan disdained the Rain Sovereign's character, he would not choose the title of King Ming anymore as it would only make the Rain Sovereign suspicious. Currently, his biggest enemy was Moksha Sovereign of the Devil World. There was absolutely no need for him to provoke a groundless calamity just for a title. Moreover, he did not like the title of King Ming at all. Zhou Ming was only his pseudonym, so he was naturally unwilling to be called Wisdom King. Even if he were to be conferred the title of king, he should be conferred the title of King Ning, shouldn't he? After making up his mind, Ning Fan said to Yun Daogu with an indifferent tone. The Rain Sovereign really thinks highly of me. He actually sent a Void Fragmentation Realm expert to bestow me with a title. I'm really flattered. By the way, which title does fellow Taoist Yun think is better for me? Cough cough cough. It's fellow Taoist Zhou's choice of title. This old man doesn't dare to interfere, Yun Daoku said with a dry smile. Is that so? Then I choose Marquis White Robe. Ning Fan said in a seemingly casual manner. Marquis White Robe? Fellow Taoist, are you really going to choose Marquis White Robe? Yun Daoku was a little excited, a little relieved. Fortunately, Ning Fan chose the title of Marquis White Robe. If Ning Fan chooses the title of Ming King, Yun Daoku would have to obey the Rain Sovereign's order and, secretly, plant a sinful imprint on Ning Fan to suppress the growth of his cultivation base. Just like how the Rain Sovereign personally sealed Yun Tianjue's cultivation base in the past, he sealed Ning Fan once again. Originally, Yun Daoku held a grudge against Ning Fan. He really hoped that Ning Fan would choose the title of Ming King and then plant a sinful imprint on Ning Fan. Now, however, Yun Daoku was already terrified by Ning Fan's void ignition technique. How would he still dare to plant a sinful imprint on Ning Fan? If the sinful imprint fails and Ning Fan uses another immortal technique to instantly kill him, then he, Yun Daoku, would really die in vain. Fortunately, this young man chose the title of Marquis White Robe. In this case, I don't need to fight him anymore. This is great. This is great. Ning Fan noticed the subtle expressions on Yun Daoku's face and sneered inwardly. The choice of this title is indeed filled with evil intentions. Since fellow Taoist has chosen the title of Marquis White Robe, then I have to announce another order from the Cloud Sovereign. Hee hee. Congratulations, Fellow Taoist Zhou. The Rain Sovereign has already conferred you as one of the 9 Palace Lords of the Rain Palace. You will be in charge of the Scarlet Heaven Palace and obey the orders of the 7th Prince. The token of the Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord and the reward for being conferred the title of Marquis are all in this storage pouch. Fellow Taoist, please kindly accept them. Yun Daoku smiled apologetically. At the same time, he took out a white storage pouch that was weaved from the threads of rain and dew and passed it to Ning Fan. The quality of this storage pouch was extremely high. Even if it receives a Void Refinement Realm attack, it might not break. The rewards inside must be precious items. Ning Fan received the storage pouch and kept it directly. He did not even check the contents in front of Yun Daoku and said coldly, "Fellow Taoist Yun, is there anything else?" His intention to send the guest away was already obvious. Nothing. Nothing. Hee. I have something else to do. I won't stay any longer. I'll leave now. Marquis White Robe, please stay. You don't have to send me off. Yun Daoku could not help but smile apologetically. He was eager to leave the Giant Devil Clan, a place where he would get into trouble, as soon as possible. He was a dignified Void Fragmentation Realm expert. When had he ever lowered his voice to anyone? However, he was really scared out of his wits by Ning Fan today. That Void Ignition technique would forever be a nightmare in Yun Daoku's heart. He would never be able to erase it. Yun Daoku politely cupped his fists at Ning Fan. Then, he turned around and was about to leave but Ning Fan stopped him. Fellow Taoist, please wait. Thud. Yun Daoku's heart skipped a beat. He cursed his bad luck inwardly. He did not know why Ning Fan stopped him. He was a little afraid but he did not dare to show any dissatisfaction on his face. He forced a smile and said, "Marquis White Robe, do you have any other orders? Please tell me clearly. I will do whatever you say as long as it's within my capabilities. Fellow Taoist, you don't have to be nervous. I just wanted to tell you one thing." Ning Fan was obviously smiling but Yun Daoku felt a chill. "What is it?" "Actually, my real name isn't Zhou Ming but Ning Fan. Please tell the Rain Sovereign that I like the title Marquis White Robe very much. I've been living a carefree life all my life and I'm not used to being an emperor or a sovereign. However, if I'm forced into a desperate situation, I can't guarantee that I won't do anything crazy. If the Rain World doesn't betray me, I won't betray the Rain World. My ambition isn't in the Rain World." When Ning Fan's words entered Yun Daoku's ears, it was like a sudden clap of thunder, deeply shocking him. Yun Daoku was not surprised by Ning Fan's real name. To cultivators, a name was just a form of address. Who didn't have a few aliases? What shocked Yun Daoku was Ning Fan's tone and expression. Ning Fan's words seemed to be illogical. However, Yun Daoku understood that Ning Fan was laying his cards on the table to the Rain Sovereign. His ambition wasn't in the Rain World. He was not greedy for the position of a Void Fragmentation Realm sovereign being at all. There was a crazed obsession in his words. This obsession could turn anyone who stood in his way into ashes. At this moment, Yun Daoku actually felt a sense of danger from Ning Fan once again. Even if he was a first heavenly layer Void Fragmentation Realm expert, once he becomes Ning Fan's enemy, he would die without a burial place. "You can leave now." Ning Fan flicked his sleeves to send him off. Yun Daoku suddenly snapped back to his senses. He cupped his fists repeatedly and left in a hurry. The moment he turned around and left, Yun Daoku clenched his teeth and swore that he would never offend Ning Fan again in his entire life. Even though Ning Fan's current cultivation base was still lower than Yun Daoku's, he did not dare to underestimate him. Yun Daoku had a strong feeling that Ning Fan would grow to a point where he could only look up to him one day. Hiss! All of the Giant Demon Clan cultivators were dumbfounded. What did they just see? A dignified Void Fragmentation Realm expert, enlightened being Dao Ku, actually apologized to Ning Fan with a smile and was actually under Ning Fan's command. As for the others, when they heard that Ning Fan had been conferred the title of Marquis White Robe and Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord by the Rain Sovereign, each and every one of them was overjoyed. This was truly a joyous occasion. They had to celebrate it properly. Big Brother Biscuit, you're so cool. What kind of magic did you use earlier? Could it be an immortal art? You actually scared that Yun Daoku to such an extent. Teach me, I want to learn too. Ming Ke happily jumped into Ning Fan's arms and looked at him pleadingly. A single magic technique was able to frighten a void fragmentation realm expert. This magic technique is really too powerful. I must learn it. You can't learn it. Ning Fan patted Ming Ke's head and scanned the ruins within 10,000 li with his eyes. His face was filled with satisfaction. Most of these ruins were created by the void ignition technique, so its power should be very good. This time, the void ignition technique that Ning Fan created was a type of void flame level fire control technique. Ning Fan did not integrate the power of samsara into this magic technique. Instead, he integrated another type of power into it. Obsession. Or perhaps faith. Ning Fan integrated the determination to ignite the moonlight into the magic technique, causing the void ignition technique to almost reach the level of an immortal art. Without that crazy determination, the destructive power of this technique would at most be equivalent to the mortal void realm. The destructive power of the void ignition technique was indeed very terrifying. However, Ning Fan helplessly realized that his current cultivation base was completely insufficient to use this technique as he wished. The grade of the magic technique was too high and Ning Fan's cultivation base was not enough. If he forcefully uses it, he would either be injured by the backlash or lose control of the magic technique. The black flame butterfly that he summoned would destroy both him and his enemies. Ning Fan could only make the black flame butterfly flap its wings 3 times at most. It was impossible for him to flap it a 4th time. The destructive power of the butterfly's wings thrice could scare Yun Daoku, but it definitely could not kill him. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base, he would not be able to kill a void fragmentation realm expert no matter what. It was funny that Yun Daoku was too timid. He did not know that Ning Fan had yet to completely master this technique. I can keep the void ignition technique as my trump card. I shouldn't use it unless I have no other choice, unless my cultivation base reaches a higher level. Ning Fan looked inside his body. During the few months when his separated soul entered the sovereign tomb, his body had already recovered by 70 to 80% with the help of the Black Star technique. Currently, Ning Fan only needed to consume the 7 revolutions life-returning pill that the Thunder Sovereign gave him and his injuries would be completely healed. Once his injuries are fully healed and he handles some trivial matters, he could then leave. Big brother, don't you need to explain to my sisters why your real name is Ning Fan? Su Qiuling reminded him. It's time for me to explain it properly. All of this has to start from a low-grade cultivation country. It's a very long story. Ning Fan smiled faintly. He reached out his hand and grabbed at the wind and snow. Countless ice and snow condensed into houses, snow mountains, and ice rivers. In an instant, the ruins within 10,000 li were rebuilt by Ning Fan's magic technique. However, the style of the houses and the terrain of the mountains and rivers were not the original terrain of the giant devil clan. Instead, they were the mountains and rivers of Wu country and Yu country. The mountains and rivers had long been engraved in Ning Fan's heart. Let's talk inside. In just half a month, the name of an unknown cultivator had spread across the rain world. Marquis White Robe. Ning Fan. Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord. Ning Fan. Even though the name was unfamiliar, no one dared to underestimate this Marquis White Robe who was newly conferred by the Rain Sovereign. It was because this Marquis White Robe was none other than revered Ming, Zhou Ming, who made countless experts of the rain world tremble with fear upon hearing his name. Countless cultivators began to spread a song crazily, reminding the low-grade cultivators in their sects not to provoke this Marquis White Robe. After those cultivators who survived the Battle of 100 Sects returned to the 800 cultivation countries, they spread Ning Fan's terrifying devil name everywhere. The Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord, slaughtering 100 sects with blood. When white robe appears, the world will be covered in white mourning dress. It was obviously an elegant title. However, when it fell on Ning Fan's head, it became filled with dense killing intent. It almost had the miraculous effect of stopping a child from crying. In the Rain Palace of the Middle State, a few palace lords of the Rain Palace's branches said to the elderly man sitting on the throne unwillingly, "Your Majesty Rain Sovereign. That Ning Fan is a devil cultivator who has killed countless people. It's fine if you confer him the title of a marquis, but how can you confer him the title of the Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord? If this person comes to the Middle State in the future, won't he be on equal footing with the cultivators of our profound gate? Your Majesty Rain Sovereign. This person was rude to you. How dare he say something like, if the Rain World doesn't betray me, I won't betray the Rain World. This young man must be punished with a small punishment. Your Majesty Rain Sovereign." Each of the palace lords' dissatisfaction was directed at Ning Fan. The Rain Sovereign did not pay attention to their complaints and remained silent. His ears were still echoing with Ning Fan's words that Yun Daoku had reported to him. If the Rain World doesn't betray me, I won't betray the Rain World. My ambition is not in the Rain World. The Rain Sovereign's expression was filled with uncertainty. He muttered to himself. This young man doesn't seem to have the intention to usurp the throne. However, the human heart is unpredictable. However, this young man still has a great use. The Rain Sovereign's eyes gradually darkened. No one knew what he was thinking about. In a country at the border of the 800 cultivation countries, a white-robed, middle-aged sword cultivator with one arm was walking alone in a cultivation city. He was Yun Tianjue. He had just returned from a certain historical site. Originally, he found a fragment of the immortal extermination sword, but it was destroyed by the guardian void beast. It made him very unhappy. Whoever provokes Yun Tianjue who was unhappy would die. All of a sudden, Yun Tianjue stopped outside an inn and listened to the conversation inside with slight interest. Have you heard? That revered Ming's real name is Ning Fan. Now, he has been conferred the title of the Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord of the Rain Palace and obtained the title of Marquis White Robe. The Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord massacred 100 sections. Once White Robe appears, the world will be covered in white mourning dress. This Marquis White Robe must never be provoked. This Ning Fan even dares to threaten the Rain Sovereign. All of a sudden, Yun Tianjue's cold brows relaxed slightly. His mood actually became a little better. So his name is Ning Fan. Ning Fan. In the Ning clan in Hai Ning of Wu country, a young lady in green robes was cultivating in the mountain. Suddenly, a servant hurriedly reported to her from outside the stone door. Miss Qing, I've found Ning Fan's whereabouts. Have you found him? Ning Qingqing stopped circulating her qi. Her face was cold and emotionless. However, there was a hint of joy hidden deep in her eyes. Have I finally found him? Look, Miss Qing. These are all the information about Marquis White Robe, Ning Fan. The servant passed all the information she had collected to Ning Qingqing. Ning Qingqing ran out of the stone door and received the jade slips expectantly. However, when she scanned through the information, her face was filled with disappointment. It's not him. This isn't him as well. In the past, he was just a mortal. How could he be a void refinement realm cultivator? Ning Qingqing sighed faintly. Her eyes were filled with disappointment. Will I never be able to repay the kindness he showed me in the past? In 7 Apricot City in Yu Country, a young lady who looked like she was 16 or 17 years old was flying a kite in the snow alone. She was wearing a snow-white fox fur coat. Her facial features were plain and clean. She was missing someone. All of a sudden, a servant hurriedly ran towards her while holding a piece of information. City Lord Jiha, we have the information about young master. Is there more information about Brother Fan? The young lady's heart suddenly skipped a beat. She threw the kite away and took the jade slip. After reading the content, her eyes curved into a crescent smile. However, it turned into sadness. Brother Fan. Can you come back before I form my core? I don't want to forget you. I can't bear to cut off my heart, devil, because it's you. That silly little girl in the past was actually close to forming her core and had even become the city lord of 7 Apricot City and Ning City. She was waiting for Ning Fan's return in her hometown. Waiting for the sound of the wind chimes of Ling Lan to come back, no matter how many years she has to wait. Chapter 5:19. The snow was flying, and the cold wind was biting cold. The room was lit by candlelight. Ning Fan sat alone on the bed, silently circulating his qi to refine the medicinal power of the life-returning pill. On that day, Ning Fan began to consume the life-returning pill after he told them everything that happened in the past. This was a pill given by Hong Yi. It was an inferior grade 7th revolution pill. Not only did it have a remarkable healing effect, but its medicinal nature was also gentle and would not cause any burden to the cultivator's body. During the few months when Ning Fan's separated soul entered the sovereign tomb, his injuries had already recovered by 70 to 80%. Following the refinement of the life-returning pill, his injuries were finally completely healed. Even the hidden injuries from many years ago were all healed. Not a bad pill. Ning Fan gently exhaled a mouthful of murky qi. His eyes sparkled. At this moment, he was in his peak condition and he was unrivaled among void inquiry stage experts. His wounds had been healed, and it was time to leave the endless sea. But before he left, there was still something he had to do. In this war of giant devils, countless cultivators from 100 sects had died. Even Pill Island, Sword Island, Cave Void Island, and the giant devil clan had lost quite a number of low-level cultivators. The reason why the Pill Island and the other forces had lost their disciples was because they had participated in saving Feng Shuian. For their sake, Ning Fan would leave some benefits for the 7 forces as compensation before he leaves. At the very least, he would remove the slave marks on the giant devil clan. Another thing was that he didn't know when he would return to the endless sea. Of course, Ning Fan needed to take away the gourd of blood wine. He also had another idea, which was to bring all the ladies he was familiar with away from the endless sea. Feng Shuian's calamity could be considered as a wake-up call to Ning Fan. Distant water couldn't solve a nearby fire. If he left these girls in the endless sea, he wouldn't be able to rush back in time to save them the next time they were in danger. There was one more thing. He had not finished helping Hong Yi. Perhaps, Ning Fan would have to help Hong Yi complete her important matter before he leaves this place. Regardless of whether Hong Yi was related to Ning Honghong or not, Ning Fan would still help Hong Yi on account that she had helped him several times. Only after settling all his grudges could he leave the endless sea without any worries. After the Battle of the 100 Sect, I was injured and in a coma. I haven't checked what I've gained from this battle. Qiuling was so considerate. She put all the loot in her storage bag and kept it safe for me. Ning Fan took out a storage pouch that looked like a sachet and sent his spirit sense into it. The fragrant pouch contained the spoils of war that Su Qiuling gave Ning Fan. Countless cultivators of the 100-plus sects had died or were injured. The ladies cleaned up the battlefield on Ning Fan's behalf and plundered a lot of good items. All of them were left for Ning Fan. Su Qiuling knew that Ning Fan was not interested in low-grade magic treasures. Thus, the sachet did not contain many magic treasures. Instead, it contained cultivation methods, pill recipes, spiritual herbs and immortal jades from various sects. He had over 7 billion immortal jade, close to 100 bottles of 5th revolution pills and 3 bottles of 6th revolution pills. Ning Fan's gaze fell upon the 6th revolution pill bottle. Among the 3 bottles of pills, the first bottle was called True Void Pill. It was a low-grade 6th revolution pill that was commonly seen in the cultivation world. There were 20 pills in a bottle. A single True Void Pill could increase a Void Glimpse stage cultivator's magic power by 1,000 units. He also had the pill recipe for the True Void Pill. Now that Ning Fan had broken through to the 6th Revolution Pill refinement realm, he would naturally be able to concoct the true void pill on his own in the future. The second bottle of pills was called Wonderful Sound Pill. It was a low-grade 6th Revolution pill that was unique to the Wonderful Sound Valley. Each of these pills could also increase a Void Glimpse stage cultivator's magic power by 1,000 units. There were 10 of them in total. The third bottle of pills was called Fierce Cultivation Pill. It came from the Barbarian Dao sect and it was actually a peak grade 6th Revolution pill. As soon as he sniffed the pill bottle, Ning Fan's eyes immediately widened in surprise. He could feel an extremely strong barbaric chi rushing towards him. When he smelled this barbaric chi, the cultivation base of his spirit sense actually improved by 1%. Ning Fan stared at the fierce cultivation pill in the pill bottle with his eyes glistening. There was only one fierce cultivation pill in the pill bottle. However, if one consumes this pill, the cultivation base of his spirit sense would increase by a terrifying amount. Ning Fan pondered for a moment and swallowed the fierce cultivation pill. He closed his eyes and rapidly refined the medicinal power of the pill. As he refined the fierce cultivation pill, the cultivation base of his spirit sense which had just broken through to the void inquiry stage with the help of the golden ancient times suddenly skyrocketed. 1 day, 2 days. The third day. After Ning Fan refined the medicinal power of the fierce cultivation pill, he inspected his sea of consciousness. His eyes were filled with astonishment. Just a single fierce cultivation pill had actually allowed his spirit sense to skyrocket. It was almost going to break through to the void pierce stage. I didn't expect this weak barbarian Dao sect to have such heaven-defying pills. If I have a second fierce cultivation pill, my spirit sense will certainly break through to the void pierce stage in one go. If I have 10 fierce cultivation pills, my spirit sense will be able to attain the absolute void stage. If I have 100 fierce cultivation pills, my spirit sense will be able to break through to the void fragmentation realm in one go even if I haven't attained it yet. The strength of the sense soul incarnation that I cultivate is closely related to my spirit sense. If my spirit sense breaks through to the void fragmentation realm, I will be able to fight against cultivators at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm with just my incarnation. No wonder Marquis Nan Man used the fierce cultivation pill to tempt King Chiao to save him before he died. The medicinal power of this fierce cultivation pill is really terrifying. Ning Fan slowly calmed his spirit sense down and took out a pill recipe from his pouch. It was the pill recipe for the fierce cultivation pill. According to the pill recipe, the concoction of each fierce cultivation pill required not only a large amount of rare spiritual herbs but also a large amount of flesh and blood essence of void fragmentation realm ferocious beasts. After reading the pill recipe, Ning Fan's eyes were filled with contemplation. It was no wonder that the medicinal effect of the fierce cultivation pill was so heaven-defying. It turned out that the ingredients required the flesh and blood of void fragmentation realm ferocious beasts. Ordinary cultivators did not have the strength to hunt void fragmentation realm ferocious beasts to concoct fierce cultivation pills. However, to Ning Fan, it seemed like he did not need to worry about his source of flesh and blood of void fragmentation realm ferocious beasts. As long as his pill refinement realm reached the peak of the 6th revolution, he would be able to concoct a large amount of fierce cultivation pills. In the past, he had once picked up the corpse of a realm beast in the Star Palace. The level of that realm beast was already comparable to a true immortal realm cultivator which was far beyond the void fragmentation realm. Its flesh and blood could naturally be used to concoct fierce cultivation pills. Moreover, its medicinal effect was much stronger than the flesh and blood of a void fragmentation realm ferocious beast. Ning Fan had been keeping the corpse of the realm beast all this time without using it. He had never expected that he could actually use it to concoct pills. In this way, it could be considered as making the best use of everything. Since his magic power had yet to attain the void refinement realm, he could not consume the true void pill and wonderful sound pill for the time being. Thus, he kept the 2 bottles of pills first. Ning Fan's spirit sense went into the pouch again and scanned through the other spoils of war. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Inside the sachet, there was actually an imitation flying sword of the immortal slaughtering sword. Even though it was just an imitation, it really contained a trace of the immortal slaughtering sword's sword chi. Without hesitation, Ning Fan pointed at the flying sword, causing it to turn into a sword light and enter his sea of consciousness. He wanted to slowly refine the imitation flying sword of the immortal slaughtering sword and integrate that trace of immortal slaughtering sword chi into his sea of consciousness. It would certainly increase the power of his sword sense slightly. After that, Ning Fan rummaged through the sachet and took out some useful items. He left the rest of the items for his women to share equally in the future. After dealing with the spoils of war, Ning Fan took out the lines of rain and dew storage pouch that Yun Daoke gave him. Obviously, the quality of this storage pouch was much higher than Ning Fan's old storage pouch. Ning Fan was going to replace his old storage pouch and use this new one from now on. The storage pouch contained some rewards given by the Rain Sovereign. At the same time, there was also the token of the Palace Lord of the Scarlet Heaven Palace that could prove his identity. However, Ning Fan did not even look at the items inside the pouch. Instead, he just stared at the storage pouch with a solemn expression. After a long while, his eyes flashed with a cold light. He activated his golden purple mist with a finger and suddenly touched the storage pouch. A tracking formation, huh? ZZZ on the surface of the storage pouch, an extremely obscure formation technique dissipated with a sizzling sound. If Ning Fan was not mistaken, that formation technique was a tracking magic technique. The reason why the Rain Sovereign cast this magic technique on the storage pouch was obviously because he wanted to know Ning Fan's whereabouts at any time. Perhaps the Rain Sovereign just wanted to know Ning Fan's whereabouts. Or maybe his motive was not pure and he wanted to send someone to track Ning Fan and assassinate him after he was done using Ning Fan. No matter what the Rain Sovereign's intention was, Ning Fan did not like his whereabouts to be known by others. He had already made use of Yun Daoke's mouth to lay his cards on the table with the Rain Sovereign. If the Rain World did not betray him, he would certainly not betray the Rain World. However, if the Rain Sovereign harbors evil intentions towards him one day, Ning Fan would make the Rain Sovereign pay the price even if he has to flatten the Rain Palace. It's a pretty good magic technique. That golden purple mist can even break Yun Zhongshuan's rain-chasing technique. It really surprises me. It seems like the matter that I asked for your help will definitely succeed. All of a sudden, a cold female voice came from outside the door. A lady in red robes walked into the room. Her blood-red eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Ning Fan was slightly surprised. He did not expect that Hong Yi would return at this time. He hung the storage pouch with the threads of rain and dew on his waist and kept the old storage pouch and the miscellaneous items on the bed into the new storage pouch. Then, he rose to his feet and greeted her with a smile. Thanks to your life-returning pill, my injuries have already healed. You don't have to thank me. You are still useful to me. Of course, I won't watch you get hurt. Hong Yi waved her hand. Her blood-red eyes were cold and indifferent. Then, she continued. Since your injuries have healed, come and help me with something big. I initially thought that you would need at least another 10 years to grow strong enough to help me. I didn't expect that you have already reached the unrivaled void inquiry stage in such a short time. Now, you are strong enough to help me with something big. Now, you will follow me into the Sovereign Tomb and help me accomplish something big. May I ask what help you need from me, Miss Hong Yi? What is it that you want me to accomplish? Ning Fan asked again. You don't have to ask. Just follow me into the Sovereign Tomb. Do whatever I ask you to do. That's enough. I will tell you what I need to tell you when the time is right. Is that so? Since you have already said so, I won't ask any more. I suppose you will tell me everything after we enter the Sovereign Tomb. Don't worry, Miss Hong Yi. No matter how dangerous the trip to the Sovereign Tomb is, I will do my best to help you accomplish your task. It's enough that you have the intention. As for your safety, you don't have to worry. With me around, you won't be in any danger in the Sovereign Tomb. Hong Yi's tone was domineering and confident. With her around, how could she let Ning Fan get hurt in the sovereign tomb? Ning Fan carefully studied Hong Yi. He felt that the lady in front of him was much more heroic than any other man. Just as he was sighing with emotion, he suddenly saw Hong Yi close the door and windows with a wave of her hand. Rustle. Rustled that her blood-red eyes were as cold as usual. She stared at Ning Fan quietly and calmly took off her clothes one by one. Why did you take off your clothes? Ning Fan avoided her gaze and asked speechlessly. Didn't Hong Yi say that she wanted to enter the sovereign tomb with me? Why did she take off her clothes? There is no connection at all right? I have the body of a primordial spirit. To be precise, it's just half of my primordial spirit. My physical body and the other half of my primordial spirit are hidden in the sovereign tomb. With my incomplete primordial spirit, I can't enter the tomb easily. Thus, I can only enter the tomb with your separated soul. Why aren't you taking off your clothes yet? What do you mean? Me too. Ning Fan was a little confused about the situation. In just a few breaths, Hong Yi had already taken off all her clothes. Her naked and fair body stood in front of Ning Fan. However, Ning Fan did not dare to take a dirty look at her. Who knew if he would provoke this woman to kill him if he peeked at Thunder's Sovereign Buzhou's naked body? That's exactly what I meant. Why aren't you taking off your clothes yet? Don't tell me you want me to help you. Hong Yi sounded displeased. Her blood-red eyes were cold. She pushed Ning Fan, who had his eyes closed, onto the bed and sat on his body. Then, she swiftly unbuttoned his clothes with her bare hands. You are the first person who dares to ask me to help you take off your clothes. Ning Fan rubbed his forehead. He felt that his thoughts could not keep up with Hong Yi's thoughts. Even though he had yet to figure out why she wanted him to take off his clothes, judging from Hong Yi's serious expression, he knew that there must be a deeper meaning behind it. Thus, he stopped hesitating. Thunder's Sovereign Buzhou, a woman, did not even mind taking off her clothes. Why should he mind it? After all, he would not suffer any losses. Ning Fan gently pushed Hong Yi away and shook his head speechlessly. He was not so weak that he needed Hong Yi to help him take off his clothes. He calmly opened his eyes and took off his clothes. Then, he looked at Hong Yi quietly without a trace of lust. I'm done taking off my clothes. What's next? Then, sit opposite of me on the bed with our palms pressed against each other. Let's enter the sovereign tomb together. Ning Fan did as he was told. He sat opposite of Hong Yi on the bed and silently chanted the yin-yang transformation scripture, suppressing any trace of lust in his heart. He was afraid that any impulsive action would anger Thunder's Sovereign Buzhou. However, Hong Yi was sitting right in front of him. It was difficult for him not to see her naked body. Hong Yi's long hair was tied up casually. She did not care about her appearance like ordinary women, but she looked very beautiful. Even though her blood-red eyes were cold, they were extremely beautiful. They were as clear as magnificent rubies. Her naked skin was as white as mutton fat jade. Her breasts were perky and alluring like cheese. Her legs were long and slender. When she sat cross-legged in front of Ning Fan casually, he could even see her pink and tender private parts. Does my body look good? Hong Yi suddenly sneered. Ning Fan would only answer that question if he was a fool. He did not dare to casually comment on Hong Yi's body. Watch your eyes. Hong Yi snorted coldly and began to cast her technique. At the moment when their palms touched each other, a vast spirit sense power was transmitted to him through Hong Yi's palm. It was like a charming and soft snake, entangling Ning Fan's spirit sense. Hong Yi's sea of consciousness spirit sense was in the form of lightning. The strength of her spirit sense was comparable to a fifth heavenly layer void fragmentation realm expert. Even though Ning Fan had just consumed the fierce cultivation pill and his spirit sense had improved significantly, in front of Hong Yi's spirit sense, he only felt that his spirit sense was like a small boat in a vast ocean. It was so weak and insignificant. Their spirit sense intertwined with each other. Suddenly, a feeling of perfect harmony emerged in Ning Fan's heart. It was like the feeling when their bodies merged together during dual cultivation. Ning Fan's heart shuddered. This feeling was similar to the dual cultivation of divine sense recorded in the ancient books. What spiritual awareness double cultivation? Do not let your imagination run wild. Quickly activate the lightning jade token. I want to enter the sovereign tomb together with your separated soul. Hong Yi was displeased. She directly saw through Ning Fan's thoughts. Her spirit sense intertwined with Ning Fan's. Both of their thoughts were completely exposed to each other. Yes. Ning Fan did not have any other thoughts in order to avoid upsetting Hong Yi. He split a strand of his spiritual sense and took out the Thunder Jade token from the storage bag beside him. He activated it. All of a sudden, the scenery in front of Ning Fan's eyes changed. A trace of his separated soul once again descended into the sovereign tomb of the Zhou clan in the internal sea. The place he descended to this time was the border between the central region and the divine realm, and it was the place he had left the last time. His split soul was still at the early nascent soul stage when he left last time. Beside him stood a cold woman in red with a frosty expression. Very good, you're finally here. It has only been a few months since I gave you the lightning jade token and you've already improved your separated soul's cultivation base to the nascent soul realm. That's not slow at all. Hong Yi sized up Ning Fan who was standing beside her. Her cold blood-red eyes flashed with surprise. Her expression was always calm. Nothing could disturb her mind. Even when she was naked with Ning Fan, she did not show the slightest shyness. Where are we going now? Ning Fan asked. The divine realm. Follow me. Hong Yi's eyes looked into the depths of the divine realm and her expression gradually turned solemn. As soon as she stepped on the ground, a thundercloud in the shape of a red lotus appeared beneath her feet. The thundercloud carried her and Ning Fan all the way to the divine realm at a speed comparable to a fifth heavenly layer void fragmentation realm expert. The moment the two of them entered the divine realm of the sovereign tomb, countless nascent soul realm, divine transformation realm and void refinement realm undead spirits that were hiding in the mountains and rivers woke up with ferocious looks in their eyes. Those who trespass into the divine realm shall die. Stupid thing. Can't you even tell who your master is? Get lost. Hong Yi was enraged. Her killing intent surged. The clear sky and the sun within 1,000,000 li turned into thunderbolts and rumbled in the sky. Countless undead spirits trembled in fear under Hong Yi's aura force. However, they still flew into the sky with ferocious looks on their faces, blocking her path. It seemed like her aura force alone could not deter the undead spirits in this place. In order to enter the depths of the divine realm, they must kill all the undead spirits in this place. Ning Fan looked around. The land within 1,000,000 li was filled with undead spirits that flew into the sky. There were at least millions of them. Among them, there were tens of thousands of divine transformation realm undead spirits and hundreds of void refinement realm undead spirits. There were void glimpse stage, void inquiry stage, void pierce stage, absolute void stage and even some half-step void fragmentation realm experts. Even Ning Fan would not dare to trespass such a terrifying formation. However, Hong Yi was not frightened at all. Even though there are many of them, they are all ants. They are not enough to stop me. It's too troublesome. I'll just kill them all with a single move. Hong Yi's blood-red eyes suddenly shot out a monstrous killing intent. When Ning Fan met Hong Yi's gaze, he felt that his own baleful qi was slightly weaker than hers. White Lightning Dao, White Emperor's Wrath. Hong Yi suddenly performed a hand seal and pointed at the sky. In the sky, a 10,000 zhang tall silver lightning giant suddenly appeared in the sea of lightning. The giant carried a thunder drum on his back and held a thunder hammer in his hand. He suddenly struck the thunder drum. All of a sudden, a terrifying silver aurora spread out from the giant's body and swept across 1,000,000 li. All the mountains and rivers within 1,000,000 li were razed to the ground. Those millions of undead spirits were all killed by Hong Yi's single move of magic technique. A single move of magic technique can raise 1,000,000 li to the ground. Ning Fan's eyes widened in astonishment. Yu country was only a few 100,000 li. The magic technique Hong Yi used was enough to destroy several countries. After destroying millions of undead spirits with a single move, Hong Yi waved her hand and countless thunder fruits within 1,000,000 li flew towards her. Each of the thunder fruits was left behind by the undead spirits after they died. The medicinal power of each thunder fruit was equivalent to 1% of a Dao fruit of the same grade. Eat all of these millions of thunder fruits. Increase the cultivation base of your separated soul. Hong Yi ordered Ning Fan coldly. She casually pointed her finger and the thunder fruits that were flying towards her immediately piled up like a mountain. Are you trying to stuff me to death? Ning Fan was speechless. He had spent several months to raise the cultivation base of his separated soul from the vein-opening realm to the nascent soul realm. However, Hong Yi only used a single move to slaughter all the undead spirits within 1,000,000 li and obtained millions of thunder fruits. If he eats all of these thunder fruits, the cultivation base of this separated soul of Ning Fan would probably rise to an extremely terrifying level. Perhaps this separated soul of his might be able to break through to the void refinement realm before his true body had magic power. With me around, will you die from stuffing yourself to death? With me protecting you and helping you refine the power of the thunder fruits, you won't die from stuffing yourself to death. Hong Yi sounded displeased. She had spent so much effort to get so many thunder fruits for Ning Fan to eat, but he actually did not appreciate her kindness. If it wasn't because Ning Fan was still useful to her, she would not be bothered to be so nice to him. If you don't finish all of them, I will kill you. As soon as Hong Yi finished speaking, she immediately calmed down. Inwardly, she was slightly shocked. It's strange. Since when did her emotions become so easily affected by others? Since when did she get angry so easily? All right. I will finish all of them. Ning Fan shook his head and laughed. Of course, he knew that Hong Yi was just saying those words out of anger. It seemed like his joke had angered this temperamental woman. Interesting. The Thunder Sovereign, who had always been as cold as an iceberg, would also be angered by him. Ning Fan had thought that Hong Yi was a wooden person who would not be affected by anyone or anything. Looking at the mountain-like pile of thunder fruits in front of him, Ning Fan's eyes flashed with anticipation. What level would the cultivation base of his separated soul reach after eating all of these thunder fruits? Would he be able to break through to the void refinement realm in one go? Chapter 520. Hong Yi stood coldly beside Ning Fan, protecting him. She was like a peerless, ferocious beast. Just by standing there, none of the undead spirits in the divine region dared to attack her. He focused all of his attention on refining the medicinal power of the thunder fruit. These thunder fruits contained extremely pure energy which was easy to absorb. With the speed of his yin-yang evil veins, it didn't take him too much time to devour the thunder fruits. With a casual flick of his sleeve, he would swallow dozens of cherry-sized nascent soul thunder fruits and refine them. He swallowed the nascent soul realm lightning fruits one after another and refined them into pure magic power. At first, every 100 nascent soul thunder fruits contained 5 units of magic power. After consuming 1,000 thunder fruits, Ning Fan broke through to the mid-nascent soul realm. After consuming 4,000 thunder fruits, Ning Fan broke through to the late nascent soul realm. After consuming more than 25,000 thunder fruits, Ning Fan broke through to the peak nascent soul realm. However, his body began to develop a resistance to the nascent soul realm thunder fruits. Ning Fan continued to eat the nascent soul realm lightning fruits like they were beans. Gradually, 100 nascent soul realm lightning fruits could only increase his magic power by 160 years. Later on, 1,000 nascent soul thunder fruits were still unable to increase one's magic power by 60 years. It took Ning Fan 1 month to finish all the nascent Soul Realm Thunder Fruits. The reason why he was able to achieve this speed was all thanks to Hong Yi using her powers to help him refine these Thunder Fruits. He still remembered that in the end, even after consuming 10,000 Thunder Fruits consecutively, he was still unable to increase his magical power by one cycle. His body had almost completely rejected the nascent Soul Realm Lightning Fruits. Without a doubt, the nascent Soul Realm Lightning Fruits had been completely destroyed by him. After eating almost all of the millions of nascent Soul Realm Lightning Fruits, his separated soul had yet to break through to the Divine Transformation Realm. Your speed of refining the Thunder Fruits is a little slow. Hong Yi was slightly dissatisfied. Slow? I don't think so. Ning Fan shook his head disapprovingly. The speed at which he consumed the Thunder Fruits was definitely not slow. It was at least 100 times faster than ordinary cultivators. There were still hundreds of thousands of nascent Soul Realm Lightning Fruits that he had yet to consume. Ning Fan no longer consumed the nascent Soul Realm Lightning Fruits and switched to the Divine Transformation Realm Lightning Fruits. There were close to 50,000 soul-forming Thunder Fruits, and each soul-forming Thunder Fruit contained close to 5 units of magic power. After consuming 500 Divine Transformation Realm Lightning Fruits, the cultivation base of his separated soul naturally broke through to the early Divine Transformation Realm. You've reached the Deity Transformation stage. I hope you can break through to the Void Training stage with these Thunder Fruits, Hong Yi said indifferently. I hope so. Ning Fan calmed his mind and focused on refining the Divine Transformation Realm Lightning Fruit. The Soul Formation Thunder Fruit contained more magic power, so the refining speed was naturally slower than the nascent Soul Thunder Fruit. After an entire month, he finally managed to refine all of the 50,000 Divine Transformation Realm Lightning Fruits. Due to the resistance that his body had developed to the Lightning Fruits, his magic power only increased by 220,000 units, breaking through to the late Divine Transformation Realm. When his gaze fell upon the Void Refinement Realm Lightning Fruits, he sighed inwardly. It seems like even if I consume all of the Void Refinement Realm Lightning Fruits, it would still not be enough for my separated soul to break through to the Void Refinement Realm. There were about 500 Void Refining Thunder Fruits in total, and each Void Refining Thunder Fruit contained about 500 units of magic power. It took him another month to finish consuming these Void Refinement Lightning Fruits. At this point, the magic power of Ning Fan's separated soul had broken through to 550,000 units. Both of them had reached the half-step Void Refinement Realm. I can only improve my separated soul to the half-step Void Refinement Realm, huh? Ning Fan felt a little regretful, but he was already satisfied. Almost all the undead cultivators in the Divine Domain had been massacred by the Red Spectres, but they had only obtained a few million Thunder Fruits. It was all thanks to Hong Yi that he was able to improve his separated soul to the half-step Void Refinement Realm within 3 months. If Ning Fan relied on himself to hunt undead creatures to improve his cultivation base, he would definitely not be able to kill Divine Transformation Realm and Void Refinement Realm undead creatures with his early nascent Soul Realm cultivation base. In just 3 months, Ning Fan's separated soul had gained 550,000 units of magic power. It was really an unexpected gain. If he summons his separated soul out of the Sovereign Tomb and back into his physical body, the magic power of his true body would break through to 1 million units in one go. Ning Fan sat cross-legged on the ground, stabilizing the cultivation base of his separated soul. Hong Yi remained silent. All of a sudden, she raised one of her hands and pulled the traces of blood-red lightning power into thin threads. Then, they wrapped around Ning Fan's body tightly like a silkworm spinning a cocoon, wrapping him within the lightning threads. This is the Demon Cocoon technique of the demon race. If you stabilize your cultivation base inside the Demon Cocoon, you can save a lot of time. Hong Yi explained. Ning Fan sat cross-legged inside the Demon Cocoon like a butterfly that was about to break out of its cocoon. He stared at the blood-red lightning cocoon outside his body. For a moment, his eyes were filled with confusion. Staying inside the lightning cocoon made him feel very warm and safe. It was as if he was staying in his mother's embrace, this feeling was very familiar. It was extremely familiar. It was as if he had been living inside this lightning cocoon many years ago, waiting for the day he would break out of it. Why do I have this kind of feeling? He was puzzled. Eventually, he swept away all the distracting thoughts and focused on stabilizing the cultivation base of his separated soul. When his separated soul completely stabilized, it was already 3 days later. Hong Yi removed the lightning cocoon and let Ning Fan out. Ning Fan looked at Hong Yi indifferently with a blank expression. Have I seen you somewhere before? Seen this lightning cocoon, a long, long time ago? Ning Fan asked. Perhaps. However, I have already erased all my previous memories. I don't really remember what happened in the past. Hong Yi said casually. Is that so? Where are we going now? Let's go to the Thunder God Palace in the depths of the divine region to retrieve my corpse and the other half of my primordial spirit. Let's go. Hong Yi stamped her feet on the ground and stood with her hands clasped behind her back. A red lotus thunder cloud appeared on the ground out of nowhere, carrying her and Ning Fan towards the depths of the divine region. This time, none of the undead spirits or ferocious beasts dared to block Hong Yi's path. Ning Fan stood behind Hong Yi on the thunder cloud and stared at her slender back. Familiar. Very familiar, he should have seen this back somewhere before. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to be so familiar. That sense of familiarity was deeply rooted in his bones, as if he had lived with this lady for 1,000 years. However, when he thought about it carefully, he found his own thoughts laughable. Thunder's sovereign Buzhou became famous tens of thousands of years ago. As for his death, it was 10,000 years ago. At that time, Ning Fan had not been born yet. It was impossible for him to know Hong Yi when she was still alive, let alone live with her for 1,000 years. Don't let your imagination run wild. The Thunder God Palace is right in front of us. Be careful. Hong Yi suddenly reminded him. Ning Fan raised his head abruptly. In front of him stood countless towering mountains. On the peak of one of the tallest mountains, there was a massive and majestic Thunder God Palace. Within the Thunder God Palace, there was a vague and obscure qi. That qi was extremely ominous, as if it was a devil from the devil abyss. The air gradually became heavy. An invisible pressure spread from the Thunder God Palace, making Ning Fan's half-step void refinement realm split soul suffocate. My corpse is locked in the left hall of the Thunder God Palace by the heavenly Dao lock. The other half of my primordial spirit is sealed in the right hall of the Thunder God Palace with a sinful seal. You are responsible for retrieving my physical body. With the power of your wind mist technique, be it the heavenly Dao lock or the sinful seal, you should be able to get rid of them easily, right? Hong Yi said in an irrefutable manner. What about you? Me? I want to clean up my sect and deal with an animal that betrayed its master. A hint of killing intent flashed across Hong Yi's eyes. She took a step forward and leaped down from the red lotus thunder cloud. Then, she smiled coldly at the direction of the Thunder God Palace. Why are you still not showing yourself? Come out now. As Hong Yi roared, clusters of black qi that resembled dark clouds suddenly rushed out of the Thunder God Palace and condensed into a 10,000 zhang large black ape. The ape's body was entangled with chains. Its blood-red eyes were filled with resentment as it stared at Hong Yi in shock. Impossible. Your physical body and primordial spirit are clearly sealed in the Thunder God Palace. How can you possibly appear outside the palace? Why? Are you not going to call me master anymore? Weeping soul. Hong Yi's eyes were filled with even more intense killing intent. You are not my master. My master is only the Rain Sovereign. You must die. The gigantic ape called Weeping Soul roared furiously. Its first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm aura force spread out crazily. Ning Fan remained silent for a while. Even though he did not know why Thunder's sovereign Buzhou died in the past, he could roughly guess the reason from the conversation between the ape and the human. The reason why Hong Yi died was probably related to the betrayal of this gigantic ape. The one who caused Hong Yi's death was most likely the Rain Sovereign. What are you still standing here for? Go to the Thunder God Palace and rescue my body and primordial spirit. Hong Yi suddenly flicked her sleeves. The red lotus thunder cloud carried Ning Fan and flew past the gigantic ape's defense with a speed that was comparable to the fifth heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. The gigantic ape was shocked. It wanted to stop Ning Fan by raising its gigantic palm and slamming it at the red cloud. Hong Yi's attack was as fast as lightning. With a point of her finger, billions of lightning bolts suddenly appeared in heaven and earth. They turned into layers of blood-red lightning chains that wrapped around the gigantic ape's arm and blocked its attack. Who do you think you are? How dare you hurt him in front of me? Hong Yi sneered. She raised her palm and struck it at the gigantic ape. Even though it was just a casual strike, it contained unimaginable magic power. It suppressed the gigantic ape so much that it could not breathe. After taking Hong Yi's attack head-on, it was sent flying backward. Its gigantic body crushed countless mountains. Roar! The gigantic ape let out a sky-piercing roar as it felt the pain. It exerted its magic power and broke all the chains on its body. Then, it stomped on the mountains and rivers and charged at Hong Yi. Magic techniques clashed against each other again and again, causing mountains and rivers to crumble. Ning Fan could feel the terrifying fluctuations of a void fragmentation realm battle behind him. He did not turn his head and there was no need for him to do so. He believed in Hong Yi's strength. Even if that gigantic ape had the strength of a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm expert, it would certainly not be able to escape death in Hong Yi's hands. He only had one mission, and that was to bring Hong Yi's physical body and primordial spirit out from the Thunder God Palace. There was a rumor that Thunder's sovereign Bu Zhou had created the sovereign tomb and was hiding inside it, living in a state where he was neither dead nor alive. However, in Ning Fan's opinion, Hong Yi had probably been betrayed in the past. She was severely injured and had no choice but to hide her physical body and half of her primordial spirit in the sovereign tomb. As for why the traitor of the gigantic ape was in the sovereign tomb, perhaps he was ordered by the Rain Sovereign to guard Hong Yi's body and primordial spirit. Or perhaps there was some other reason. Ning Fan had no idea. As he approached the entrance of the Thunder God Palace, he leaped down from the red lotus thunder cloud. He turned into a ray of light and stopped in front of the gigantic door of the palace. It was a gigantic door that was 10,000 zhang tall. Layers of lightning formation light were set up on the gigantic door. The strength of the formation light had already reached the immortal void realm. Even a void fragmentation realm expert would not be able to pass through the formation light and enter the Thunder God Palace without the Thunder Sovereign's order. Sensing the extraordinary lightning power on the gigantic door, Ning Fan took a gentle breath and stepped on the peak of the mountain. A massive lightning diagram appeared beneath his feet. At the moment the lightning diagram appeared, Hong Yi, who was fighting against the gigantic ape, suddenly had a hint of surprise in her eyes. The Tai Su lightning diagram. This young man is indeed the inheritor of the complete Tai Su lightning star. He can even display the lightning diagram of the Tai Su lightning emperor. With this lightning diagram, his safety in the Thunder God Palace should not be a problem anymore. In this case, I can finally put my mind at ease and focus on my battle against the Weeping Soul Beast. Rumble, Ning Fan gently pointed a finger at the gigantic door. There was nothing fancy about this finger, but an unimaginable lightning might spread out from Ning Fan's body. It was as if the person who pointed at the gigantic door was not Ning Fan but an immortal emperor. It was the finger bone of an immortal emperor. It contained supreme lightning might. No lightning could harm this finger. The lightning power on the gigantic door dissipated in an instant. Ning Fan pushed the door open and strode into the Thunder God Palace. The internal structure of the Thunder God Palace was not complicated. It was only divided into the left palace and the right palace. There were also many lightning formations and lightning puppets for defense. Ning Fan did not even look at those formation lights and spiritual puppets. He just walked towards the left palace quietly. He had refined the Lightning Emperor's finger bone and condensed the Tai Su lightning star. He was standing on the Tai Su lightning diagram. At this moment, Ning Fan's arrival in the Thunder God Palace was like the arrival of the Lightning Emperor. No lightning formations dared to attack Ning Fan. None of the lightning puppets dared to harm Ning Fan. Ning Fan entered the left palace of the Thunder God Palace without facing any obstacles. The left palace was extremely empty. There were countless gigantic copper pillars erected on it. On one of the copper pillars, the corpse of a lady dressed in red robes was tied to the tall copper pillar by a few iron chains which emitted cold chi. The lady was not breathing, as if she was in a deep sleep. Her eyes were closed and her expression was peaceful, like a sleeping beauty. It was a corpse. It was Hong Yi's body in the past. There were countless wounds on this corpse. Many of the wounds were so deep that the bones could be seen. Looking at the countless wounds on Hong Yi's body, Ning Fan's heart ached for no reason. His friendship with Hong Yi should not be this deep. However, when he saw someone severely injuring her, he actually felt an indescribable anger. It was as if he saw his best friend who had been with him for 1,000 years getting injured. He could not suppress the anger in his heart. This is strange. Why do I feel so angry when I see Hong Yi getting injured? Ning Fan calmed himself down and his eyes darkened. His thoughts raced, but he could not figure out the source of his anger no matter how hard he tried. Forget it. I'll cut off these iron chains first and retrieve Hong Yi's corpse. If I'm not mistaken, these iron chains should be condensed from the power of the Heavenly Tao. Are they the chains of the Heavenly Tao? Ning Fan raised his finger. Traces of golden-purple wind and sand dispersed and blew towards the chains of the Heavenly Tao, vowing to turn them into ashes. Under the power of samsara, all living beings in the 6 Tao were like ants. The Heavenly Tao was just one of the 6 Tao. In front of the power of samsara, it was nothing. Break. As soon as Ning Fan uttered a word, the indestructible chains of the Heavenly Tao began to disintegrate. The heavens had pity on them. Those were the chains of the Heavenly Tao that even Thunder's sovereign Bu Zhou could not break in the past. They were actually turned into ashes by Ning Fan's wind mist finger. When the iron chains turned into ashes, Hong Yi's corpse fell from the copper pillar and fell to the ground. Ning Fan's reaction was quick. With a leap, he caught Hong Yi's corpse and held it in his arms. The cold corpse did not have any warmth. However, when he held it in his arms, it gave Ning Fan a warm feeling that he had not felt for a long time. That warmth went deep into his bones. The physical body is in my hands. But why do I have this strange feeling? Ning Fan's eyes were filled with confusion. Chapter 521. Ning Fan saved Hong Yi's corpse and carried it horizontally in his arms. Then, he stepped on the lightning diagram and hurried to the right palace of the Thunder God Palace. In the right hall, there were no bronze pillars. In the empty hall, there was only a cold jade ice bed. On the ice bed, there was an illusory female primordial spirit sleeping. The woman's nascent soul was densely intertwined with complicated azure runes. This primordial spirit woman was the other half of Hong Yi's primordial spirit. The runes seemed to have a sealing divine ability. It sealed half of Hong Yi's primordial spirit's cultivation, causing her to be unconscious and unable to wake up. The unconscious woman's eyebrows were deeply furrowed as if she was in pain. It was clear that being sealed by the talisman was uncomfortable. This talisman is the divine skill talisman of the ancient god clan. Could it be that the runes planted on this woman are the sin seals that Hong Yi mentioned? Sin imprint. Ning Fan had heard of it. As the white-robed sword god Yun Tianjue had killed the 4th prince of the Rain Palace in a fit of rage, the Rain Sovereign had planted a sinful seal on him. His cultivation base had been sealed at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm for countless years. If it wasn't for Yun Tianjue forcefully breaking through the seal of sin, he certainly wouldn't be able to cultivate to the fourth heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. However, even at his peak, Yun Tianjue had to spend countless years to break through the sin seal. Half of Hong Yi's primordial spirit was heavily injured and unconscious. With her own strength, there was no way she could break the seal of sin. Sin imprint, huh? Using an ancient divine technique to cast a seal, this Rain Sovereign's divine ability is indeed extraordinary. But even the ancient god's seal can't stop the power of reincarnation. Destroy. Ning Fan walked closer to the ice bed made of cold jade and placed Hong Yi's corpse on the ground. Golden-purple mist swirled around his palm and he carefully pressed it on the chest of the unconscious primordial spirit. The softness of the tentacle made Ning Fan slightly absent-minded, but he immediately regained his composure. He activated the wind mist technique and carefully weathered the seal along the runes of the sin mark. Sizzle. The sin imprint that gave even Yun Tianjue a headache was actually so vulnerable in Ning Fan's hands. All of the ancient divine runes on it melted away one after another. After an unknown period of time, Ning Fan finally erased all of the ancient divine runes, completely erasing the sin imprint that Hong Yi had. Everything in the world had a nemesis. When the power of samsara fell into Ning Fan's hands, it actually became the strongest weapon to break all kinds of chains and seals. The primordial spirit has also been rescued. Ning Fan stared at the half of Hong Yi's unconscious primordial spirit and her pale complexion. Anger filled his heart again. This anger was too unreasonable. Ning Fan recited the Yin-Yang Transformation Heart Sutra to make his heart as still as water, suppressing all the negative emotions. Once again, he regained his calm expression. Holding Hong Yi's corpse with his left hand and the other half of her primordial spirit with his right, Ning Fan stepped on the lightning diagram and walked out of the Thunder God Palace. He had completed the mission that Hong Yi had given him perfectly. However, rescuing the corpse and primordial spirit had taken up quite a lot of time. It had been at least 6 hours since Ning Fan entered the Lightning God Palace. When Ning Fan walked to the entrance of the Lightning God Palace, he did not hear any sounds of fighting coming from outside. When he walked out of the Lightning Divine Hall, he saw a cold-faced woman standing outside the gigantic door. She was stepping on the corpse of a gigantic ape. Who else could it be other than Hong Yi? As for the gigantic ape corpse beneath her feet, wasn't it the weeping soul that betrayed its master? Once again, Ning Fan gained a direct understanding of Hong Yi's toughness. It had only been a few hours but Hong Yi had already killed a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm gigantic ape. Her combat power was really too high. When Hong Yi saw that Ning Fan had finally walked out of the Lightning God Palace, she frowned and said impatiently. "You're too slow. I thought you had already died in the Lightning God Palace. Are you concerned about me?" Ning Fan teased. "Don't you want your mouth anymore?" Hong Yi sneered. If Ning Fan dares to say another word, she would definitely tear his mouth apart. Ning Fan decided to remain silent. Hong Yi was way too temperamental. Who knew which wrong words he would say would offend her? He quietly passed the corpse and broken primordial spirit to Hong Yi. Then, he observed her quietly, wanting to see how she was going to deal with the corpse and broken primordial spirit. If his guess was not wrong, Hong Yi was going to put on a show of borrowing someone else's body to resurrect herself. After that, she would return her physical body and primordial spirit to their original positions. To low-level cultivators, resurrection was a very mysterious thing. However, when one's cultivation base has reached Ning Fan's level, the so-called resurrection was actually not that mysterious. Cultivators with great abilities could use some secret techniques to repair their organs and broken limbs. They could also use special methods to reconstruct their physical bodies. Some devil cultivators who were proficient in the body-seizing technique could be reborn by seizing the physical body of a living person. For experts like Hong Yi, as long as a trace of their primordial spirit was not destroyed, they had plenty of methods to reconstruct their physical bodies and resurrect themselves. Primordial spirit unification. Hong Yi put down the corpse and gently lifted her finger, touching the glabella of the other half of her primordial spirit. That half of her primordial spirit immediately opened its eyes blankly. When it saw that it was Hong Yi in front of it, it smiled faintly and took a step forward, merging with Hong Yi. Huff! A strong gust of wind swept across the place. The momentum of Hong Yi's fusion of primordial spirit was rather great. The process lasted for 3 days. 3 days later, Hong Yi's primordial spirit had become one. Her blood-red eyes glanced sideways at her own corpse. After pondering for a while, she said decisively, "It's easy to fuse primordial spirits. However, it's not easy to perfectly return the primordial spirit to its original position. My primordial spirit has been separated from my physical body for too long. Besides, something happened to my primordial spirit in the past. I had once ruthlessly split it into two. Half of my primordial spirit was sealed by the sin imprint and fell into a deep slumber for 10,000 years. As for the other half of my primordial spirit, it split into 10,000 tufts of lightning grass and hid itself in the world. However, the lightning grass that was split into two had some other problems. Fortunately, Zhou Chen and the others were loyal and devoted. They found many heavenly materials and earthly treasures for me which are the best for nourishing my physical body and primordial spirit. As long as I bring my physical body out of the sovereign tomb and use the heavenly materials and earthly treasures to return my primordial spirit, I will be able to truly be reborn in no time." Hong Yi muttered to herself. After a while, she made up her mind to bring her corpse out of the sovereign tomb. She actually wants to bring the items in the sovereign tomb out. Ning Fan was slightly surprised. However, when he thought about it from another perspective, it was not strange at all. All cultivators who hold the Thunder Jade token could enter the sovereign tomb, but no one could bring the items out. However, Hong Yi should be special. She was the one who built the sovereign tomb. She was the one who stored all the undead spirits and heavenly materials and earthly treasures inside the tomb. Thus, she could naturally take them out as she wished. Hong Yi, who had merged with her primordial spirit, gave Ning Fan a vastly different feeling compared to before. In Ning Fan's eyes, the current Hong Yi seemed to have become the master of the sovereign tomb again. The life and death of all the living beings inside the tomb were under her control. She could kill them with just a single thought. "Since you have saved my corpse and my broken primordial spirit, I want to give you some rewards." There was nothing else that particularly interested him. He shifted his gaze away from those heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Instead, his eyes fell on the corpse of the gigantic ape beneath Hong Yi's feet. "I want this corpse." It was the corpse of a void fragmentation realm ferocious beast. Whether it was used to brew wine or concoct fierce cultivation pills, it was extremely valuable. The corpse of the weeping soul sovereign, huh? Hong Yi hesitated for a moment, which was rare for her. Then, she nodded and said, "All right. The weeping soul sovereign betrayed me after all. Since you want its corpse, I don't mind giving it to you. Let's go." Hong Yi gently pointed with her finger. The Arctic Flame, the World Creation Stone and the gigantic ape's corpse were all kept into a storage pouch and flew into Ning Fan's chest. With another flick of her sleeve, both of their figures gradually faded from the sovereign tomb. They were about to leave the tomb. Ning Fan held the storage pouch tightly in his chest. He felt the scenery in front of him change. When he opened his eyes again, his separated soul had already returned to his true body. The storage pouch that contained the Arctic Flame and the other items was still in Ning Fan's chest. However, Hong Yi, who was naked with Ning Fan just now, was no longer in his room. Perhaps, she had already left. Ning Fan's heart felt a little empty. It was a feeling that was hard to let go of. It was as if a close friend who had been with him for a long time had suddenly left without saying goodbye. "I must have met her somewhere before, perhaps, she is Ning Honghong. That's why I feel so close to her. Perhaps, I have already met her before." Ning Fan shook his head and erased the thoughts in his mind. Then, he regained his calmness. No matter what, he had already helped Hong Yi with her help. Another matter of the internal sea had been settled. Before he had the time to deal with the Arctic flame and the other rewards, a wave of vast magic power from his separated soul suddenly spread throughout his body. This time, with Hong Yi's help, the cultivation base of Ning Fan's separated soul skyrocketed and its magic power exceeded 550,000 units. At the moment he summoned his separated soul back, the magic power that it possessed had already fused into his body. At this moment, the total amount of magic power in Ning Fan's body was no longer at the half-step void refinement realm. At this moment, the total amount of magic power in Ning Fan's body had exceeded 1 million units, exceeding the limit of the void refinement realm. I'm actually going to break through to the void refinement realm now. Ning Fan put down the storage pouch and immediately sat in a lotus position. His body was naked. He circulated his spiritual energy to eliminate all distracting thoughts and entered a state of cultivation as fast as possible. Originally, he planned to break through to the void refinement realm with the help of the blood wine. However, who would have thought that Hong Yi would give him 550,000 units of magic power, allowing him to touch the bottleneck of the void refinement realm in one go. Now that his magic power had broken through the limit of the void refinement realm, it was difficult to suppress it. Ning Fan must immediately break through the bottleneck of the void refinement realm. He could no longer wait for the moment when the blood wine is brewed. This blood wine could only be kept as a means to increase his void refinement realm cultivation base. He must break through to the void refinement realm at this moment. Otherwise, his immortal veins would explode from the immense magic power that was being transferred to him by his separated soul. What is void? Ning Fan closed his eyes and recalled the enlightenment he had gained in the sovereign tomb. His mind gradually became as calm as still water. Fusing the comprehension of the word void into one's magic power, into one's gaze and one breath. That would be the void refinement realm. Outside the room, the women had been guarding Ning Fan for another 3 months. Su Qiuling and the other women saw Hong Yi entering Ning Fan's room. They even found out that Hong Yi and Ning Fan were sitting opposite each other without any clothes covering their bodies. Luckily, Ning Fan did not do anything more intimate with Hong Yi. Other than Yu Lingkong and Ming Ke, who were slightly dissatisfied, the other ladies could guess that Ning Fan was doing something serious with Hong Yi. Thus, they did not disturb the two of them. Who is that woman? How dare you seduce my brother Biscuit, you've gone too far. Ming Ke was extremely dissatisfied. Ning Fan was her exclusive biscuit refinement master. How could any random cat or dog dare to snatch her brother Biscuit away from her? Isn't that woman that I met on Thunder Bamboo Island? Why does she always go to Little Cucumber's place recently? Since when did Little Cucumber's relationship with her become so good? The two of them are staying together without any clothes on. Aren't they afraid that something might happen? Aren't they afraid of catching a cold? What if Little Cucumber can't control himself? No. Little Cucumber is so good-looking. The one who can't control himself first will certainly be that red-robed female devil. If Little Cucumber gets pounced on by that red-robed female devil and loses his virginity, wouldn't I be cuckolded by her? This won't do. I must go and save Little Cucumber. Yu Lingkong held the banner of justice high and was eager to rush into the room to eliminate Hong Yi and save Ning Fan from the fiery pit. Su Qiuling gently rubbed her forehead. She felt a slight headache. Yu Lingkong and Ming Ke were too noisy. Other than Ning Fan, no one else could control this group of women. At this moment, an extremely strong aura force suddenly rushed out of Ning Fan's room. In the vast sky above, countless layers of heavenly tribulation clouds suddenly appeared. This is the heavenly tribulation of the Void Glimpse stage. Someone is going to break through to the Void Glimpse stage. Who is it? Could it be Little Cucumber? Yu Lingkong stopped fooling around. Her eyes were filled with worry. Isn't Big Brother a Void Inquiry stage cultivator? Why is he only transcending the Void Glimpse stage heavenly tribulation now? Su Qiuling was puzzled. The power of this heavenly tribulation is a little abnormal. It's too strong. Su Yan's beautiful face turned pale. In the giant devil clan, old ancestor Dong Su, venerated sword, venerated pill, and Zhu Qing were sitting in the main hall. They were discussing something. All of a sudden, the aura force of the heavenly tribulation swept across the entire giant devil clan. The four venerated beings rose to their feet at the same time and rushed out of the main hall. Looking at the tribulation clouds in the sky, all of them were extremely shocked. Void glimpse stage heavenly tribulation. How is this possible? Who is going to break through to the void glimpse stage? Venerated sword was the first one who turned pale with fright. It's him. Dong Su looked at the direction of Ning Fan's residence. It was exactly that direction that the heavenly tribulation had locked onto. I have already witnessed a void glimpse stage heavenly tribulation once. However, this time's heavenly tribulation is even more violent than the previous one. I have never seen such a terrifying void glimpse stage heavenly tribulation in my life. Even the void inquiry stage heavenly tribulation of some void inquiry stage cultivators doesn't have such terrifying power. Venerated Pill recalled Ming K's heavenly tribulation when she was at the void glimpse stage. Compared to Ning Fan's heavenly tribulation, their heavenly tribulations were simply incomparable. The vast sky of 200,000 li was completely sealed by the fiery red tribulation clouds of the fire tribulation, covering the entire sky. The sky seemed to be burning. Countless snowflakes were melted by the hot air and turned into rain, sprinkling on the cold northern country. In the vast sky, the vague shadow of a flame giant could be vaguely seen. It was clad in divine armor and stood on the layers of fire clouds, staring coldly at Ning Fan's direction. Many cultivators who were knowledgeable immediately turned pale with fright when they saw the flame giant. That giant. Could it be the legendary Tao Guardian? The Tao Guardian is the ancient immortal guard puppet that controls the heavenly Tao in the legends. It doesn't have any life. The Tao Guardian will only appear under one circumstance. When a cultivator whom the heavenly Tao does not tolerate appears in this world, only then will the Tao Guardian show up and kill on behalf of the heavenly Tao. The power of the heavenly tribulation that the Tao Guardian personally sends down is more than 10 times stronger than an ordinary fire tribulation. No cultivator can survive it. Could it be that the Tao Guardian has shown up this time to eliminate Marquis White Robe? All of the cultivators looked at Ning Fan's residence with shock and confusion. In the vast sky, the flame giant was stepping on layers of fire clouds. His eyes were empty as he coldly stared at Ning Fan's direction and spoke in a shaky tone. My name is Ji Hua. Cultivator Ning Fan has killed too many people and violated the harmony of the heavenly Tao. He cannot be forgiven. I will summon fire on behalf of the heavenly Tao and punish you in the rain immortal world. As soon as the giant's voice fell, all the fire clouds suddenly trembled and countless heavenly fire meteors fell from the sky, crashing towards Ning Fan's house. Inside the house, Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes. He was a little surprised. Tao Guardian. I, Ning Fan, have actually attracted the heavenly Tao to kill me just because I broke through to the void refinement realm. Is this the price I have to pay for killing too many people in my life? In my life, I have killed people like scything flax. The corpses I stepped on were like carps in the river. The sea of blood I bathed in was like the pouring rain from the sky. However, I have a clear conscience after going on a rampage in this world. Even though I have killed too many people, I have never lost my original heart. The heavenly Tao wants to kill me but I refuse to accept it. I am unwilling to bow my head and wait for death. The only way is to fight against the heavenly Tao to survive. All of a sudden, Ning Fan turned into a ray of light and directly broke out of the house, soaring into the sky. His body was surrounded by cold rainwater. The sky was filled with the terrifying tribulation clouds of the fire tribulation. They were densely packed and countless. Ning Fan suddenly raised his head and met the eyes of the fire giant who was called Jihua. This giant was not a living person. It was just a puppet. However, this puppet had a terrifying cultivation base that was comparable to the void fragmentation realm. It was just too terrifying. Facing the fiery meteors that were falling from the sky, Ning Fan suddenly moved his fingers at lightning speed. Layers of halos spread out and fire vortexes appeared in the sky out of nowhere. He was clearly using the fire-plucking technique. The balls of heavenly tribulation flames were absorbed into the steel of sun and moon. The layers of tribulation clouds of the fire tribulation were forcibly taken away by Ning Fan. Seeing that the fire tribulation could not hurt Ning Fan, the fire giant remained silent. All of a sudden, it raised its hand and pointed at Ning Fan. Its void fragmentation realm aura force suddenly dispersed. The heavenly Tao will be the cauldron and you will be the pill. Refine. All of a sudden, flames that seemed to be real and illusory at the same time enveloped Ning Fan, turning him into a gigantic pill cauldron that was made of flames. Ning Fan was trapped inside the pill cauldron and was being burned by the void flames. He felt like he was really being burned by the giant like a pill. Those who go against the heavenly Tao deserve to die. Those who go against the harmony of the heavenly Tao can only die. Giant Jihua said coldly. Inside the pill cauldron, Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. It's just a mere giant puppet. Is it addicted to torturing me? Since it's just a puppet. Should I capture it? The life imprisoning technique specialized in dealing with all kinds of puppets. Even though this technique alone could not subdue a void fragmentation realm puppet, if I use this technique to launch a sneak attack with Luo Yu's help, would it be possible to capture a void fragmentation realm puppet? What Ning Fan was thinking about was the possibility of capturing the giant puppet. As for Giant Jihua's illustrious identity as the messenger of the heavenly Tao, it was not within his scope of consideration. Little you, I want to capture that giant puppet. Can you help me calculate the probability of success? Are you crazy? It's a Tao guardian. Even Luo Yu, who had always been calm, was shocked by Ning Fan's plan. Will I offend anyone if I capture it? Ning Fan was only considering the possibility and the consequences. No. You will only offend the heavenly Tao of the first ring of the lower world. From then on, the heavenly tribulations will be crueler than the previous one. Sooner or later, you will be struck to death by the heavenly tribulations during your tribulation transcendence. It doesn't matter if there are more heavenly tribulations. My heavenly tribulations are already very cruel. I'm not afraid of being even more cruel. This giant wants to kill me. It's impossible for me to sit still and wait for my death. I might as well capture it and be done with it. If you want to obtain a void fragmentation realm puppet, you will have to pay a price, right? Sacrificing the heavenly tribulations in the future in exchange for a void fragmentation realm puppet isn't a bad deal. Do you really want to capture it? The heavenly tribulations in the future will become even more terrifying. Luo Yu understood that Ning Fan had already made up his mind. Thus, she did not bother to persuade him anymore. She was not a timid person in the first place. At first, she was just frightened by Ning Fan's audacious idea. She was a dignified true immortal. Naturally, she would not be afraid of a void fragmentation realm Tao guardian or a mere heavenly Tao of the first ring. I just want to know what are the chances of success if you help me. If the chances are too small, then forget it. Even though Ning Fan was trapped in the flame pill cauldron, his mind was rapidly planning his grand plan to capture the giant. He had been cultivating the devil path and had killed too many people. Finally, he was facing the wrath of the heavens. Unfortunately, he was not a weakling who would willingly submit to death. The old devil did not teach him anything. However, he imparted to him the domineering devil Tao. If the old devil was here, he would certainly be overjoyed to capture the heavenly Tao giant with Ning Fan. The old devil was also a lawless person. If I capture this giant, I can get a void fragmentation realm puppet. However, I have to get out of this flame pill cauldron first. Ning Fan looked around. The temperature of the flames in the gigantic pill cauldron he was in was extremely high. Even with the protection of the steel of sun and moon, he could not withstand the power of the flames. When he tried to use the fire-plucking technique, he actually could not restrain the flames of the pill cauldron with the steel of sun and moon. The flames contained some ancient runes. It was because of these runes that the flames could not be devoured by the steel of sun and moon. The flame magic technique that this giant puppet used was really not simple. It was indeed worthy of being the messenger of the heavenly Tao. How should I break the trap of this cauldron? Just as Ning Fan's voice fell, a scorching wave of fire suddenly rushed towards him, drowning him. The wave of fire turned into the form of a gigantic Qilin beast. It breathed out waves of heat with an extremely majestic aura, rampaging in the cauldron. In the outside world, the flame giant stopped making hand seals and said coldly, "I have already used the Qilin technique. He must die, he. He is my good brother. I can't let you kill him so easily." A faint teasing laughter spread in the sea of Qilin flames. However, it carried a hint of coldness. Even the puppet messenger of the first ring of the heavenly Tao would not be able to harm Ning Fan in front of her. Chapter 522. Ning Fan was trapped inside the heavenly tribulation flame cauldron. Clusters of flames in the form of Qilins engulfed him. Runes interweaved with one another and the great Tao was suppressing him. He swung his fists again and again, trying to disperse the sea of flames. However, even with the help of the steel of sun and moon's fire-restraining divine ability, he still couldn't disperse the sea of flames. At most, he could only protect himself. The ancient runes that merged with the sea of flames were too powerful. It increased the power of the void flames to a terrifying level, making it difficult for Ning Fan to move an inch in the sea of flames. This was the fire tribulation that the Tao Guardian personally sent down. Ordinary void glimpse stage cultivators would definitely die in the tribulation cauldron. It was already very rare for Ning Fan to be able to temporarily protect himself in the sea of flames. Ning Fan was surrounded by a sea of fire in all directions. He could not get out of the sea of fire nor could he break the furnace, let alone escape. Naturally, he could not carry out his plan to capture giant Jihua. He carefully walked through the sea of fire, but wherever he went, the sea of fire would burn him, not giving him a chance to escape. Roar! Within the sea of fire, clusters of crimson flames suddenly turned into hundreds and thousands of fire Qilins. All of them charged at Ning Fan while letting out furious roars. Ning Fan immediately stopped in his tracks. His essence chi filled his body and he swung his fists. His attacks were as fast as lightning, killing the fire Qilins one after another. At the same time, he was inwardly shocked by how difficult it was to deal with these fire Qilins. These fire Qilins were made of fire and each of them was above the soul formation level. Ning Fan continued to kill the fire Qilins. Each time a fire Qilin was killed, it would scatter into balls of flames at first. However, a moment later, the flames would condense into the shape of a beast again and turn into a Qilin to attack him again. Ning Fan was unable to completely kill any of the fire Qilins. His magic power and essence chi were being depleted rapidly after each attack. This furnace is the heavenly tribulation furnace summoned by giant Jihua. It contains the 8 trigrams, and as long as the 8 trigrams aren't destroyed, the tribulation furnace won't shatter. The flames within the furnace were tribulation flames. Giant Jihua had fused ancient runes into these flames. As long as the runes were not destroyed, the flames would not be extinguished. The giant then used the Qilin technique, turning the flames into a Qilin to attack you. It didn't aim to kill you in one fell swoop, but rather to exhaust your magic power so that you would be buried in the tribulation fire. I have to leave the tribulation cauldron as soon as possible. I can't waste my magic power with these fire Qilins. The arrangement of the sea of fire in this furnace is in accordance with the yin-yang 8 trigrams formation. Even I can't see through the mysteries of this grand formation. You must be careful. If you take a wrong step in the sea of fire, you will be turned into ashes even with the protection of the steel of sun and moon. Luo Yu reminded from within the yin-yang locket. Ning Fan nodded. He also understood that he would not be able to break the tribulation cauldron and tribulation fire by force. Activating the power of the heart array, his eyes intertwined with the array patterns, gradually seeing through the hidden array in the sea of fire. Although the sea of fire looked messy, there was actually an array formation hidden within. On the 8 walls of the furnace of tribulation, there were 8 trigrams Tao talismans. Hidden in them were Qian, Kan, Zhen, Zhen, Sun, Li, Kun, Dui, and other 8 trigrams. Unless the 8 trigrams were broken, the furnace of tribulation would not shatter. Li represented the fire trigram, and the Li position had the strongest fire power. Sun represented the wind trigram. There was wind in the Sun position but there was no fire. However, it stirred up countless fiery smoke that could blind a void glimpse stage cultivator's eyes. Kan was the water hexagram, water and fire were incompatible. This position was the weakest part of the sea of fire, so it was guarded by the most fire chilans. After dispersing the heart formation pattern, with a single thought, why not charge out of the sea of fire from the Kan position? As long as Ning Fan gets close to the wall of the cauldron, he would activate all of his magic power to attack the Kan position. He was confident that he could destroy the cauldron in one go. Ning Fan stepped on the profound formation without making a single wrong step in the sea of fire. Even Luo Yu would not be able to match his level of attainment in formations. Those fire chilans seemed to have seen through Ning Fan's intention. They roared and rushed towards him, trying to stop him from approaching the wall of the Kan position. Ning Fan did not show them any mercy. He opened his mouth and breathed out balls of black devil flames, turning them into thousands of black butterflies. All of them flew towards the fire chilans and perished together with them. Stepping on the corpses of the fire chilans and the ashes of the butterflies, Ning Fan approached the Kan position of the cauldron step by step. Then, he mercilessly slammed his palm on the Kan position. All of a sudden, 108 layers of palm imprints combined into one and heavily struck the wall of the cauldron, shattering the Tao talisman of the Kan trigram. The entire cauldron began to shake violently. A huge crack appeared on one of the walls of the cauldron. Then, the entire cauldron began to tremble and break into pieces. Giant Jihua, who had a pair of hollow eyes, firmly believed that he had already killed Ning Fan. However, he did not expect that the heavenly tribulation cauldron he summoned would be destroyed by Ning Fan with a single palm strike. Impossible. The giant could not believe the scene in front of him. He watched helplessly as Ning Fan stepped on countless layers of fire waves and soared into the sky, charging towards him with intense killing intent. He waved his palm, as if he was ready to cast the fire tribulation to trap Ning Fan again. This time, however, Ning Fan did not give him the chance to do so. He performed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers and his eyes suddenly became indifferent and dignified. He stared at the giant coldly and suddenly pointed a finger at him, displaying the heaven sealing technique. Seal. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base, it was absolutely impossible for him to seal the giant with just a finger. However, Ning Fan's unyielding belief was integrated into this finger attack. He did not hope to seal the giant in place. Instead, he just hoped to stop the giant from summoning the heavenly tribulation again. As Ning Fan pointed his finger at the giant, traces of bloodlines suddenly spread out from his body and bound his arm tightly. The giant let out a furious roar. He exerted force on his arm and broke all the bloodlines, breaking free from the heaven sealing technique. Even though the giant was not sealed in place, he did not have the time to summon the second round of heavenly tribulation because he was stopped by the heaven sealing technique. The heaven sealing technique was forcefully broken. Blood flowed out from Ning Fan's 7 orifices and his eyes looked like those of a deranged devil. He did not even bother to wipe the blood off his face. Instead, he coldly charged at the giant and displayed the second technique. He closed his right eye and only opened his left eye. All of a sudden, a black crescent moon appeared in his left eye. This was the first time Ning Fan used the life imprisoning technique with his unrivaled void inquiry stage strength. This was the ancestral emperor of the Northern Heavens morning technique. He sacrificed his own life force and lifespan to seal the life of the puppet. In the past, when he was in the Lost World Tower, Ning Fan's cultivation base was still low and he did not have much lifespan left. Thus, he could not seal a large number of Void Refinement Realm spiritual puppets. However, right now, there was only one spiritual puppet that Ning Fan needed to face. Moreover, his cultivation base was no longer the same as before and his lifespan was limitless. This giant wanted to summon the heavenly tribulation to kill Ning Fan. Therefore, Ning Fan did not hesitate to capture the giant and make him his slave. Meeting Ning Fan's cold and dignified eyes and the black crescent moon in his left eye, it was the first time Giant Jihua felt a sense of extreme danger from Ning Fan. What a terrifying gaze it was. It was as if he was above all spiritual puppets. It was as if he was standing at the peak of all living beings. It was as if the person standing in front of Giant Jihua was not Ning Fan but the ancestral emperor of the northern heaven who used to control all the spiritual puppets in the world. Fear. As the messenger of the heavenly Tao, Giant Jihua actually felt a hint of fear towards Ning Fan. He had an intuition that he must not let Ning Fan get close to him. He must not let Ning Fan display the complete crescent moon technique. Otherwise, even if he was a void fragmentation realm spiritual puppet and his cultivation base was higher than Ning Fan, he would still be in danger. He opened his mouth wide and breathed out dark red void fire that blotted out the sky. The fire condensed into a gigantic flaming mountain. The light of the flames covered the entire sky within a million li and it suddenly pressed down on Ning Fan. The gigantic mountain was infused with all of Giant Jihua's magic power. Even a void fragmentation realm expert would be severely injured if they are hit by it. Luo Yu originally wanted to help Ning Fan get rid of this gigantic mountain but she was rejected by him. In the past, when Ning Fan was at the nascent soul realm, he was able to capture the divine transformation realm stone soldier. Now that his magic power was about to break through to the void glimpse stage and his ancient devil cultivation base had reached the mid-reckless devil realm, it was not impossible for him to capture a void fragmentation realm spiritual puppet. If he were to borrow Luo Yu's magic power, even if he managed to capture Giant Jihua, he would definitely suffer a severe backlash that would injure him for several months. He didn't want to spend that time recuperating. He stared at the flame giant and suddenly patted his storage pouch. He took out 3 void fragmentation realm jade slips and crushed them without any hesitation. As the 3 void fragmentation realm jade slips shattered, 3 giant shadows of the Mist Horn tribe's ancestor appeared in the sky all of a sudden. All of them swung their gigantic fists at the blazing mountain. Giant Jihua's full-powered attack was no small matter. A void fragmentation realm jade slip alone would certainly not be able to stop that huge mountain. However, when the 3 jade slips were used at the same time and the 3 giants attacked at the same time, the flame giant was instantly smashed into pieces. After one strike, the 3 giant phantoms all disappeared. Giant Jihua's eyes widened in shock. He could not imagine that his full-powered attack would be blocked by Ning Fan. The gigantic mountain crumbled into clusters of remnant flames and flew towards Ning Fan, trying to stop him from advancing. Ning Fan's right eye was tightly shut while his left eye flashed with a cold light. A black crescent moon was about to emerge from his body. He fearlessly dashed towards the remnant flames. Chi! 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 The remnant flames were also infused with ancient runes, making them extremely terrifying. In just an instant, they burned Ning Fan's physical body into ashes. Before Giant Jihua could feel relieved after killing Ning Fan, he suddenly saw countless black shadows spreading across the sky. They turned into thousands of black butterflies that danced in the air. The butterflies merged into one. Ning Fan, who was dressed in black robes, reappeared in front of the giant with his black hair fluttering wildly in the wind. No matter how the remnant flames burned him into ashes time and time again, he still had that unyielding obsession that even the messenger of the heavenly Tao could not erase. Incarnation technique. Giant Jihua was shocked by the scene in front of him. It was as if the black-robed young man in front of him was not a human but a black butterfly. This butterfly was filled with crazy obsession. Even if its wings were to be burned to ashes, even if its Tao and life were to perish, it still wanted to protect the obsession in its heart from reincarnation. I won't regret even if I turn into ashes. I will use my butterfly to defy reincarnation. The giant's aura force weakened and he instinctively took half a step back. At this moment, Ning Fan had already passed through the remnant flames and appeared in front of the giant. 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 30,000 years, Ning Fan was madly sacrificing his lifespan in order to maximize the power of the life imprisoning technique. He sacrificed 50,000 years of lifespan in one go. At this moment, the black crescent moon in his left eye was dazzling, giving giant Jihua a feeling that he was invincible. Puppets of the 100 million worlds, none of you can take my life. All of you will become my life imprisoning technique. Morning technique, life imprisoning technique. I will imprison your life with a single finger. The black crescent moon in Ning Fan's left eye shone brightly. At this moment, giant Jihua stared at Ning Fan in disbelief. He felt that all of his puppet techniques were going to be destroyed under Ning Fan's cold gaze. He could not even muster up the will to resist. Thousands of black crescent moon marks appeared densely on the giant's body. It was completely different from Stone Warrior who only had a single moon mark. After being implanted with the black moon mark, giant Jihua felt a chill in his heart. To his shock, he realized that his life and death were actually controlled by the moon mark and he had become Ning Fan's slave puppet. He could no longer disobey Ning Fan's orders. He was a dignified void fragmentation realm puppet, the messenger of the heavenly Tao who sent down the tribulation. How could he submit to a cultivator from the mortal world? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. He roared furiously and tried his best to resist. However, he could not break free from the restraint of the moon mark and lost control of his body. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with coldness. All of a sudden, he leaped into the air and stood on the top of the giant's skull. Then, he squatted down and waved his hand to activate his memory power, erasing all of the puppet's memories. As the messenger of the heavenly Tao, the giant naturally had spiritual intelligence and memories. After erasing these memories, this giant would only submit to Ning Fan from now on. Jihua greets my lord. The giant knelt on the fiery clouds and bowed respectfully to Ning Fan. What? A void fragmentation realm Tao guardian actually submitted to Marquis Whiterobe? What exactly happened? One of the cultivators of the Sword Island was astonished. We don't know. We don't know. However, if this matter spreads, it will certainly cause an unimaginable sensation in the Rain world. A cultivator of the Pill Island said in shock. Ning Fan leaped down from the giant's skull and stood tall in the sky. He pointed a finger at giant Jihua and the giant turned into a fiery red puppet the size of a palm. Then, he kept the puppet into his storage pouch. Looking at the countless cultivators below, Shao Qin sighed slightly. The scene of subduing giant Jihua was simply too shocking. Perhaps he would have to use his state of memory to erase the memories of most of the cultivators. I didn't expect you to really subdue this giant puppet, but in this way, you have completely offended the heavenly Tao of the lower realm. The heavenly Tao abided by the laws of the heavens and could not casually send a tribulation to retaliate against cultivators. The heavenly Tao will not plot against you, but when you break through in the future, the heavenly Tao will send down an unimaginably terrifying heavenly tribulation. Perhaps when you break through to the void inquiry stage, the heavenly Tao will send down a void fragmentation realm heavenly tribulation to toy with you to death. Hopefully, you can withstand that level of heavenly tribulation. In the Profoundine world, Luo Yu clicked her tongue and sighed with a teasing tone. Offending the heavenly Tao. If that's the case, I'll have to be extra careful when I make a breakthrough in the future and prepare a large number of magical treasures and spiritual herbs for the tribulation. Ning Fan smiled disapprovingly. Even if the heavenly Tao would send down a void fragmentation realm heavenly tribulation on the day he breaks through to the void inquiry stage, he would accept it. In order to obtain a void fragmentation realm spiritual puppet, one must always pay a price, right? Today, with this void fragmentation realm spiritual puppet, Ning Fan's safety factor increased exponentially. Borrowing Luo Yu's magic power would cause him to suffer a severe backlash for a few months. However, there would not be any backlash when he controls the spiritual puppet to kill his enemies. Next, I'll break through to the void glimpse stage in one go. Ning Fan looked at the tribulation flames that were dispersing in all directions and calmed his mind. Then, he sorted out his comprehension of the void, touched the bottleneck of the void glimpse stage and broke through it. At this moment, his magic power and aura force broke through to the void glimpse stage. His magic power skyrocketed, almost reaching 1.5 million units. Magic power, 1.5 million units. Early void refinement realm. Essence chi, 9 million units. Mid-reckless devil realm. The sum of his magic power and essence chi had already exceeded 10 million units. Even an ordinary void pierce stage cultivator would only have 10 million units of magic power. Next, let's get down to business. Ning Fan released the power of his memory intent realm and swept across countless cultivators. Other than Venerated Sword and a few other cultivators whose memories were not erased, the rest of the low-grade cultivators had their memories erased. I'll keep the existence of Giant Jihua a secret for now and keep it as my trump card. If there are more Tao Guardians to send tribulations to me during the next heavenly tribulation, he would not mind capturing a few more heavenly Tao puppets. Chapter 523. In the Giant Devil clan, all the low-grade cultivators who had seen Giant Jihua had their memories erased for one day. With the help of the power of memory, Ning Fan did not hurt the sea of consciousness of these cultivators. He just made them faint for a day. When they woke up on the second day, none of the low-level cultivators remembered that Ning Fan had broken through to the void glimpse stage and subdued Giant Jihua. Naturally, the memories of Patriarch Dong Su and the others were not erased. They were all people worth befriending and trustworthy. There was no need to erase their memories. Ning Fan discussed with the four venerated beings for a long time. He left behind the comprehension and experience of the void realm for them to attain the void glimpse stage. He also left behind quite a lot of magic treasures and pills for the four venerated beings as compensation for their casualties in the battle of the 100+ sections. Then, he personally removed the slave mark from the giant demon clan and didn't plant a slave mark on himself. Ning Fan's actions had won the favor of the four venerated beings and their friendship deepened. After that, he entered the Yuanya world and went into seclusion inside the dark golden pagoda to stabilize his void glimpse stage cultivation base. When his realm completely stabilized, a month had already passed. A month in the outside world was equivalent to 10 years in the dark gold pagoda. He did not leave the pagoda immediately. Instead, he took out the world-creating stone, the Arctic flame and the corpse of the giant ape from his storage pouch. The Arctic flame was an earth-vein demonic flame that was ranked 5th. After all, the giant ape was a void fragmentation realm ferocious beast. The blood from its corpse could be used to brew blood wine. As for the world creation stone, Ning Fan had never expected that he would obtain a world-creating stone in the sovereign tomb. It was a hard black stone the size of a fingernail. Just such a small piece of world creation stone was enough to create a small world. Its value was naturally immeasurable. Ning Fan removed the cauldron ring on his wrist. He was determined to refine the world-creating stone into the cauldron ring and upgrade the heavenly dwelling space in the cauldron ring into a small kiliacosm. After the upgrade, the cauldron ring could form a world of its own. Even Ning Fan could enter the cauldron world to cultivate and visit those human cauldrons. Cauldron world that belongs to me, it was his first time using the world creation stone to refine a small kiliacosm cosmos treasure. In order to prevent the refinement from failing and damaging the cauldrons, Ning Fan temporarily released all the cauldrons and left them inside the dark golden pagoda to cultivate. He sat alone on the 7th floor and began to raise the grade of his cauldron ring. He sat there for 10 years. To the outside world, only 2 months had passed. They did not have any other thoughts. They just wanted to be Ning Fan's maidservants for the rest of their lives. That was enough for them. Naylan Zi leaned against a green peach tree. She lowered her eyes and looked at Ning Fan with a self-mocking expression. In the past, she was still the dignified concubine Zi who was high and mighty and looked down on Ning Fan. However, just how many years had passed and Ning Fan had actually broken through to the void refinement realm, becoming an existence that Naylan Zi had to look up to. I shouldn't have become enemies with him in the past. Now, it's already too late to think about these things. She smiled bitterly. Gu Shinyang, the devil concubine of the Ghost Eye clan, stroked the hair on her temples and looked at Ning Fan gratefully. I didn't expect him to actually kill Marquis Yu Gui and raze the Ghost Eye clan to the ground. The grudge between me and the Ghost Eye clan has ended just like that. Father, mother, she scooped up some soil and used it as an incense stick to worship her family members. She silently swore in her heart that she would follow Ning Fan for the rest of her life and never betray him. Ning Fan left behind a large number of pills and ancient records of cultivation methods for the female guards. He also engaged in dual cultivation with some of them to help them break through their bottlenecks. After that, he left the Cauldron world in a flash. He returned to the outside world and bid farewell to old ancestor Dong Su and the others. This time, he was really going to leave the internal endless sea. Su Qiuling, Feng Shuyan, Yu Lingkong, Su Yan, Fen Qi. He wanted to bring these women along with him. They could no longer stay in the endless sea, which was a dangerous place. These women were temporarily kept in the Cauldron world by Ning Fan to help him build this brand new kiliacosm. Feng Shuyan, Su Yan, Fen Qi, Gu Shinyang. The devil concubines of the 4 great devil clans had all submitted to Ning Fan. With these 4 women around, it would be easy for the human cauldrons to cultivate body techniques and inscribe devil marks in the future. Luo Yu had already woken up. Ning Fan had also captured a void fragmentation realm spiritual puppet. Now that he had returned to Yu country, he would certainly be able to build a great force with a void fragmentation realm expert to protect his women from any harm. Ning Fan, who was dressed in white robes and holding a blood-red umbrella, disappeared into the wind and snow of the giant devil clan. This time, he was really going to leave. In the wind and snow, only old ancestor Dong Su and the others quietly sent him off. Ning Fan did not know that at the moment when he left the giant devil clan, a lady in red robes was hiding in the wind and snow and secretly watching him. Goodbye. Hong Yi's cold blood-red eyes were filled with a hint of a sigh. Her beneficial relationship with Ning Fan had already ended. It was really strange that someone as cold as her actually felt a little reluctant to part with him. 1 month later, a young man in white robes suddenly appeared on the Divine Space Island. He took away the blood wine gourd and kept the blood of a void fragmentation realm giant ape into the gourd. Another month later, a young man in white robes appeared on the Penglai Immortal Island in the external endless sea and took away a lady named Yalan. What made the young man feel regretful was that Bei Shao Man had already returned to the Northern Heaven Immortal World. 3 days later, a major event happened on the Green Jade Immortal Island which alarmed many experts. The vice-sect master of the Green Jade sect, Yin Suqiu, had officially ascended to the Southern Heaven Immortal World under the invitation of the Purple Mansion Academy. When the experts of the Purple Mansion Academy opened the passage of the World Passage, countless cultivators of the Rain World were envious of Yin Suqiu. They envied her for having the qualification to ascend to the 4 Heavens Immortal World. At the moment when she stepped into the passage of the World Passage, Yin Suqiu suddenly looked back with a smile and said softly, "Please take care of yourself. I will wait for you." No one knew who she was smiling at. Only Yin Suqiu's good sister, Su Yao, knew that she was smiling at a young man in white robes. That young man was the most important person to Yin Suqiu. He was 10,000 times more precious than her life and the righteous path. After Yin Suqiu ascended, the young man in white robes took away the entire Green Jade Immortal Island. 10 days later, a young man in white robes arrived at the Pleasure Devil Island. He left behind a large amount of magic treasures and pills for Su Rushan and took away a beautiful mortal woman named by Su from Gusa's city. After a long time, the young man in white robes never appeared in the endless sea again. He had left. Marquis White Robe's ferocious name shook the world, but no one knew where he had gone. In the Edo city of Ing country, which was connected to the endless sea, Ning Fan held a blood-red umbrella and quietly walked past the bustling scenes, walking towards the peace in his heart. His pace was not fast, but every step he took was like a ghost that could cross countless distances. With just a few dozen steps, he had already crossed the millions of li of Ing country and left the country. The cultivators of Ing country who were guarding the country-locking grand formation only saw the figure of a young man in white robes flash past them, and they never saw him again. The young man in white robes actually went through the country-locking grand formation, which even divine transformation realm cultivators could not pass through easily. Who is this person? He can actually pass through our country's country-locking grand formation. Could he be a legendary void refinement realm old monster? Each of the cultivators who were guarding the formation was shocked. In the past, Ning Fan's route to the endless sea was all the way to the north. He used the teleportation formation in Great Gene to head to the endless sea. Now, Ning Fan's speed was extraordinary. With his current speed, he could cross 200,000 li with a single step. He could cross a low-grade cultivation country with just 2 to 3 steps. After returning from the endless sea, he traveled all the way to the west without stopping to rest. He had crossed more than 10 cultivation countries. Even when he was passing through Wu country, he did not stop for even half a step. He was worried about his hometown and Jiha. He had been wandering around for too long and he was starting to miss his home. In the eastern region of Yu country, outside the country-locking grand formation, the sky had already turned dark. A group of vein opening realm cultivators of the Purple Light sect was guarding the border of the formation light between Yu country and Wu country. However, they did not dare to be careless. This place was exactly the route that the Heavenly Tao sect used to invade Yu country in the past. Ever since the battle between the Devil Race and Yu country, the Purple Light sect had tightened the security of this place. Even if some old monsters who had been famous for a long time wanted to pass through this place, they would have to go through a strict inspection before they were allowed to pass through. This was to prevent any terrifying devils from endangering the security of Yu country. This group of vein-opening realm cultivators of the Purple Light sect were checking the cultivators of Wu country who were passing by. Suddenly, they saw a white-robed young man who was holding a blood-red umbrella walking towards them slowly. That young man's pace did not seem to be fast. However, with just a single step, he turned into an unimaginable ray of light and disappeared without a trace. He directly passed through the country-locking grand formation and entered Yu country. Each of the cultivators of the Purple Light sect and the passing cultivators were shocked. They had never seen such a terrifying ray of light in their lives. Who is this person? Could he be a peerless devil from Wu country? Could it be that he has entered our country to start a massacre? A young disciple of the Purple Light sect was almost scared to death. Idiots! You guys don't even know that lord? It's him. He has returned. In a pagoda 10 li away from them, a harmonious spirit realm elder of the Purple Light sect hurriedly flew out. His face was filled with surprise and joy. Elder Su, who is that person? Another young disciple asked. It's not strange that you guys don't know that person. After all, your bone age is less than 20 years old. As for that lord, he has already left Yu country for tens of years. He has returned. With him around, Great Jin's plan of annexing our country and the other 11 countries will never be realized. The crisis of our Purple Light sect's destruction will never happen again. Elder Su laughed excitedly. In 7 Apricot City, the wind and snow were fluttering. Jiha stood quietly outside the city, waiting for someone to return. Ever since she received the news that Ning Fan was conferred the title of Marquis White Robe, Jiha often stood outside 7 Apricot City, waiting for Ning Fan's return. Marquis White Robe's reputation had spread across the Rain world. However, not many people in Yu country would associate Marquis White Robe with the young lord of 7 Apricot City. In the eyes of ordinary cultivators, the young lord of 7 Apricot City was named Ning Fan and Marquis White Robe was also named Ning Fan. However, these two Ning Fans were certainly not the same person. After all, the disparity between their cultivation bases was too great. Most likely, they were just people with the same name. However, Jihe firmly believed that Marquis White Robe, whose name shook the world, was her big brother Fan whom she had been waiting for a long time. City Lord Jihe, young Lord Ning Fan won't come back. You don't have to wait anymore. One of the maidservants advised. That's right. Sect Master Lan of the Sinister Sparrow sect has invited City Lord to Song Country 10 days later to participate in the Song Country's general meeting and meet the King of Great Jin. City Lord still needs to take care of your body. Don't tire yourself out too much. Another maidservant advised. It's all right. I'm willing to wait for him. I'm willing. He will come back. He will definitely come back. Even though I don't know how long I have to wait for him, I know that he will certainly come back. Jihe smiled stubbornly. The sky gradually turned dark. The wind and snow were still as strong as ever. Her beloved had yet to return. Jihe sighed inwardly. She wore a slightly disappointed look and turned around to return to 7 Apricot City. At this moment, the sound of wind chimes could be heard in the midst of the falling snowflakes. That sound sounded like wind chimes. However, it was not the sound of wind chimes. Instead, it was the clear and melodious sound of the wind blowing on the stamens of the lily of the valley. A trace of the breath that haunted her dreams entered her nose, causing her to be rooted to the ground, unable to move a single step. She wanted to turn her head to have a look but she did not dare to do so. Her pure eyes suddenly became moist. She was not sure if it was him who had returned. Why are you crying? Who has wronged my Miss Jihe? I have brought you the lily of the valley that you wanted. Don't you want to have a look? Ning Fan smiled. He was holding a pot of lily of the valley in one hand and a blood umbrella in the other, shielding Jihe from the wind and snow above her head. Big brother Fan. Is it you? I'm not dreaming. Jihe turned around and looked at the man who had the same smile as before. Her nose felt sour. It's him. It's him. He really came back. This happiness came so suddenly that it made her suspect that this was just a wet dream that she had been thinking about day and night. You've grown taller. Ning Fan looked at Jihe's tears and felt as if his heart had been cut by a knife. He kept the blood umbrella and the lily of the valley and hugged Jihe tightly, wishing that he could melt the lady in front of him into his blood. They had reunited after 40 years. When he saw that she was still safe and sound, there was nothing in the world that could be happier than this. When he saw her crying after 40 years, he could not calm down no matter how hard he tried. I'm back. I won't let anyone hurt you. Ning Fan smiled gently. At the next moment, his eyes suddenly flashed with a sharp cold light. I heard that Great Jin wants to annex you country. I also heard that King Jin had sent people to threaten you. On the way home, Ning Fan spread his spirit sense and heard many rumors. One of them was about Great Jin's intention to annex the 11 neighboring countries. King Jin had even sent many cultivators of Great Jin to threaten the sects of other countries to submit to him. Rumor has it that King Jin had broken through to the spirit-severing realm and intended to expand his territory and annex several countries, upgrading Great Jin from a mid-grade cultivation country to a high-grade cultivation country. Rumor has it that King Jin had sent people to Yu country several times to threaten the sects of Yu country to submit to him. 7 Apricot City and Sinister Sparrow sect refused to accept it and many of their disciples were either injured or killed. Given Ning Fan's character, how could he allow others to hurt Jihe? Big brother Fan, that King Jin is not to be trifled with. He has the support of a branch palace of the Rain Palace. Jihe began to act foolishly. She had forgotten how strong Ning Fan was according to the information she received. King Jin, huh? I'd like to see what's so difficult about him. Ning Fan's eyes became even colder. In the past, King Jin could bully and humiliate him. Now, he might not even have the qualifications to stand in front of him. With him around, who would dare to annex your country? With him around, what is the great Jin and the branch palace of the Rain Palace? He has returned. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.